What's up? What's up? What's up? It's the stream of your dream guard, the always looking fresh and clean guard, the I don't know. That's all from me, guard.
Yeah, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Vanguard Live. Thanks so much for tuning in this afternoon. We have another great show for you guys today. Feeling awesome this morning. Today is actually the autumnal equinox. It's a special occasion here at the Vanguard. We're big fans of the fall season. Feeling awesome.
Yeah, about the 1 year anniversary of Kyle's worst take of all time. I do remember that last year on the fall equinox. Yeah. No, but we have a fucking great show planned for everybody today. Lots of juicy shit to get into. Obviously, you guys read the headline. It's going to be a lot of fun. Gavin and I were actually just bemoaning the lack of things going on yesterday, and boy, were we greeted with a fucking quite a delight this morning. All across the board, got some really substantive politics to talk about, and then some more like in the gutter guard to get to.
Absolutely, as we always do things here. We do like to start the show, however, with a big shout out to the patron community. So shout out to our patrons for supporting the show, for keeping us afloat in these trying times. Really appreciate the support from you guys, and the links in the description if you're a fan of the show, if you enjoy our content and perspective and wish to support the work that we're doing, then consider hitting up the link in the description. It really does go a long way. Even just a few bucks a month really helps us out. So again, huge shout out to the patron community. We really appreciate you. Wouldn't be able to do the show without you. And as I said, the link's going to be in the description. As always, if you're interested in becoming a patron yourself, having your name on the shout out screen, getting access to our Discord community, and the other benefits we offer our patrons. So yeah, hit that up. Links in the description, guys. But with that out of the way, you're saying, Zach, we have some more substantive stuff to get into today. Do you want to start with that, or do you want to, get right into the gutter?
No, let's go ahead and let's ease into it. Right? Let's make people wait patiently. Let's let some people trickle in. I know we have a couple of regular stories. I saw you had a story about Amazon that you want to get to. Did you want to open up with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely start with the Amazon story. This is pretty crazy. Here, I'll throw it up, guys. Let's go here. 1, 2, 3. Twitter. According to Matt Stoller, Amazon just promoted an ex-private prison executive to run their warehouse worker training. So some more kind of authoritarian anti-labor activity going on over at Amazon. Here we can check out Matt Stoller's report on this. He says, it's always fun to keep an eye on Amazon's internal personnel moves because they speak to the general culture of the pace-setting firm in American retail and commerce. And something telling happened recently. A contact pointed out to me last week, Amazon shuffled its management teams across its warehouse divisions, revealing that it had promoted the company's head of loss provision in the Americas and a former analyst at a private prison company, Danya Howard, to the head of training for warehouse workers. Like I said, pretty authoritarian stuff, literally hiring private prison, no less, executives to run their warehouse training. I think that tells you just about everything you need to know about the kind of warehouses they're running, the kind of business in general they're running over there.
Yeah, I think it's so revealing. I saw this in the folder and I was like, oh, we got to react to this at least in passing, because it illustrates the cruelty with which that they view their workers. I think just the absolute inhumanity that they approach their workforce and the labor force and the people that actually get you your fucking packages and actually service you from Amazon. Right? They treat them like the same way that the prison industrial complex sees its essentially its slaves. Right? These are how can we take these populations in our human warehouse and maximize their profit output for us as the ownership class. I mean, it's truly fucking disgusting. Just really lays bare the kind of just awful corporate this is all corporations end goal, right? Maximum human exploitation to maximize profit, but this just lays the cold reality in front of you, and wanted to point it out for everyone.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. Thank you, by the way, Christina. Really appreciate that first super chat of the live stream. Thank you so much for the $19.99. The show was on fire yesterday and will be today. That's right, Christina. Thank you so much. Glad you enjoyed yesterday's show. And absolutely, today's show is going to be just as fire. So thank you so much, Christina.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Christina. Always great to see you in the chat. We really appreciate the contribution. And yeah, Gavin and I are super excited for today's show. So we hope it's just as big of a banger as yesterday.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Christina. We really appreciate your support. Thank you also, Brian, for the $4.99. Did you see Kyle Kulinski getting called out about Joe Rogan by Dan from the internet? No, I did not see that, Brian. Do you know who Dan from the internet is, Zach?
I don't actually. I was hoping you would. I don't. If you send us the link, though, we're happy to react to it because I was pretty much on the same side of Kyle Kulinski when he was dragging Joe Rogan the other day. But who knows? I'd be happy to react to it.
Yeah, again, I'm not really sure who Dan from the internet is. I think I might have found it. Calling out Kyle Kulinski. That seemed like it was from earlier. I guess that was from today. Yeah, we can maybe look into that later, Brian, just because we're not prepared to talk anything about that. And I don't really know much about Dan from the internet. So yeah, we'll have to circle back on that one, Brian. But thanks for letting us know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll have to check out Dan from the internet's content as well to kind of get a gauge on the guy. But thank you for the super chat, obviously.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brian, as always.
Yeah. Before we get into the main bulk of the show, there was one other story that I wanted to throw up there just because I think that it comes in such stark contrast to some other major news stories that we followed, not just, on our show, but that have been like big fucking cases for people throughout the entirety of Gavin and I's adult life. Right. And I've been following this case, the Mark Wilson case. And essentially what happened was there was a young man. He's 23. Right. Or he was I think he is currently 23, and he's been behind bars for a few years now. And essentially what happened was he was the victim of a hate crime. He was attempted to be run off the road by two white teenagers, and there was a white girl in the car that was 17 years old. They literally were screaming racial slurs at the guy, running him off the road. This isn't disputed, right? That this occurred. He then fired his legally owned handgun at the truck, hoping to scare them off. And accidentally fatally struck and killed this 17-year-old white girl that was riding in the car. Now, this is all super important because I haven't heard a goddamn peep from the Stand Your Ground crowd. I haven't heard a goddamn peep from all the people that were out here screaming about how Kyle Rittenhouse had a fucking right to defend himself. I haven't heard a goddamn peep from all of you. It wasn't about racism. It was about the Second Amendment. It was about liberty. I haven't heard a goddamn thing. And I'm waiting for some of you to come out and spell this out for people. This man was just sentenced to 10 years for defending himself. And let's remember, in the South, does anybody remember the case of George Zimmerman, right? Hello, he got fucking free after he killed a minor, right? Because of the stand your ground laws. Georgia has stand your ground laws, but what we know and what we're learning from a case like this, and why I wanted to talk about it, because we've been talking so much about the justice system on this podcast, the lack of justice system, how it works completely differently for the white affluent population than it does for the, even just the regular black population, the brown population. I mean, you were just going to be straight up discriminated against. It's a fact, right? We have to change that, obviously, but this is the cold reality of the way it is. And essentially what we've learned is that all these stand your ground laws are not to protect all citizens. They are to create a system in which you can legally assassinate black and brown men, because you cannot argue that they're being exercised at the same rate. Right? A black man always going to be found guilty of fucking manslaughter. They even changed the charges in this case. It was so fucked up. There was a weird loophole. So they were trying to get him for murder, right? And instead they knew they weren't going to get that conviction. So in the middle of the trial, because of some opaque Georgia prosecutorial law, they were allowed to insert new charges for manslaughter. And it's in the middle of all that. They're like, okay, well, and then the judge gives him the maximum penalty for that manslaughter of 10 years. It was a bunch of shady legal and essentially what it all boils down to is, even though this guy had an ironclad case where if he was a white guy and the roles had been reversed, we've already seen how that plays out in court. There was all the precedent for that, but because he was a black man that shot a white girl on, with a legally owned gun after they'd already been harassing him on the road, and it would have been, it's clear as day, modern day court criminal racism. And I just wanted, to point it out because we haven't heard a fucking word from all these people who were out here flag waving for Kyle Rittenhouse, that fucking disgusting racist pig, okay, out here that was looking for fucking trouble. No, this guy was trying to evade trouble. He was worried about his girlfriend that was in the car with him, what was going to happen to her. and he tried to fire off a warning shot. A tragedy happened, and there was no lenience for him. But yet you can just take a fucking black child. These are the differences in America, and you have to just let people see that.
You don't think the Kyle Rittenhouse crowd is going to come out in strong principled defense of this case, Zach? I can't believe you would make such an assertion.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Yeah, no, we're not going to hear a goddamn peep for those fucking people. But thanks for bringing attention to that, Zach. I wasn't even fully aware of the details, but truly insane. And yeah, looking forward to the Kyle Rittenhouse crowd coming to his defense. By the way, thank you so much, Zachary, for the 199. Thoughts on MAGA communism from Hinkle? Dumb, wrong, wrong. Yeah, that's a good segue. We're about to get into all that, Zachary. So thank you so much for the super chat. And by the way, I did look a little bit more into this, Brian. We can react to this a little bit later in the show, assuming you're down, Zach, because this is an interesting thread from Dan from the internet, who used to work at TYT and seems to be an old friend of Kyle Kulinski's. So yeah, we can get into that later in the show too, because I have some thoughts on this one as well.
Yeah, let me if you could put the link to that in here. I'm just curious. I'll take a look while we're recording, but I'm hella down to fucking react to that, obviously. And yeah, all I have to say about Jackson Hinkle is the United States will never be a socialist country, right? This is your fucking new mascot.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's a great segue, and thank you once again, Zachary, for the 199 and providing us that beautiful segue. Let's get right into it, because yesterday I saw Jimmy Dore had on Jackson Hinkle himself on the JDS to talk a little bit about this kooky new idea, MAGA communism. So they had this little discussion / debate, and towards the end, they get a little bit into Jimmy Dore's presidential ambitions, which I teased in the headline, as you guys saw. So sit tight, buckle up. We'll hear about that later in the video, but I think it's worth reacting to this entire discussion. Again, this is Jackson Hinkle, Pasta from the Convo Couch, and of course, Jimmy himself. It's a little bit of a debate between Jackson and Pasta about this idea of MAGA communism, with Jimmy kind of acting as a, I guess, moderator, if you will. Either way, pretty funny stuff. I'm excited to get your reaction to this, Zach. I'm excited to hear you guys in chat reaction to this insanity. But this is where we are, I guess. We have to talk about MAGA communism. I tried to avoid it. I was like, we don't want to give this attention. This is just fucking idiocy. But we've reached the point where we got to talk about it.
Bro, stranger than fiction is all I have to say before we roll this. Like, how the fuck did this become reality? Oh God.
Yeah, it's truly like the whole Jimmy Dore left has genuinely devolved into self-parody. So let's check this out, guys. This is pretty funny stuff. Again, looking forward to hearing chat's reaction to this conversation, and also about Jimmy Dore's presidential ambitions, which again he gets into towards the end of the video. So let's take a listen here and see what's up with this discourse.
Now, Jackson, there's been a lot of controversy as of late about MAGA communism. And so I want you to tell us what is, because no one can really define what it is. And the people who seem to like to talk about it the most won't talk to you directly about it. So I want you to tell me what is MAGA communism?
MAGA communism is an idea that I didn't come up with. Haas of the Infrared Show, who we went out to dinner in LA together. He's a good guy.
I remember Haas.
Yeah, so he came up with it. The idea is that a lot of the left in America right now is not aligned with us on the issues that matter most when it comes to defeating big tech, nationalizing big tech, protecting free speech, abolishing the CIA, the FBI, going against the endless wars, these sorts of things, going against big pharma, big agriculture. They kind of run in line with the average Democratic Party sentiment. And the working class, which not in its entirety, but I would say in large part makes up the MAGA movement, is aligned with communists on this issue, or, leftist, whatever. But there definitely is a strong line that can be drawn between Marxists and MAGA on this very issue, or on these very issues. And at the end of the day, I think that what we've seen undoubtedly from the Trump administration in their 4 years is that it was either consciously or in some cases unconsciously doing the bidding of the deep state. We saw that countless times throughout the Trump administration. So
I got to address some of the substance of this conversation so far, and just of this whole idea of MAGA communism, which is fucking just completely patently stupid, absurd. It's like saying I'm a Joe Biden communist. Like, what? That doesn't mean anything.
It's
What?
like the literal joke that we used to make about Vosh being an anarcho-Bidenist. It's that reality. It's that level of fucking like hysteria. It's like you take an actual joke because, I mean, obviously this is all about clicks and all about like fucking catching attention and being as outrageous and fucking brash and oxymoronic as possible.
Well, that, but also just setting the stage for him to start making pro-Trump content. He already is making pro-Trump content, but he's setting the stage so come the 2024 election, he can just, transition into being a full-fledged Trump supporter, a full-fledged Republican. And that's 100% what's going to happen, guys. Don't get it twisted. It's only a matter of time before he drops communism altogether and it's just MAGA. That's what this guy is. He's 100% positioning himself to become a Trump supporter, to cash in on the Trump 2024 grift. That's exactly what's happening. It's the most obvious shit ever. Don't take this seriously. This is not a serious attempt to unite the working class behind any policies. That's all bullshit. And you know why I know that? Because the MAGA movement is a movement to elect Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with communism. The goal of MAGA is simply to elect Donald Trump. Whatever other policies they claim to support doesn't really matter because, as Jackson just said, when Trump actually was president, which he was for 4 years, he didn't accomplish any of those fucking goals. He didn't accomplish any of the policies that defined so-called Trumpism. He didn't fucking stop outsourcing, for example. Any of these kind of populist policies that he ran on. He didn't bring any fucking jobs back to this country. He didn't do any of these like populist policies that Jackson is pretending somehow unites Marxists with MAGA voters. Again, all that MAGA voters, the entire MAGA movement, all they give a fuck about is electing Donald Trump. That is the single goal. MAGA is Trump's slogan, Make America Great Again. That is a slogan that Donald Trump came up with and ran on. So that's what that movement is. That's completely and diametrically opposed to the goals of the communist movement. He's saying the communist movement has the same goals as an explicitly capitalist movement. What? Again, it's like saying I'm a Joe Biden communist. That doesn't mean anything. You're just talking out of your ass. And again, the real point of this is just to set the stage for him to start cashing in on the Trump 2024 grift. And he's going to go full Republican in a matter of weeks, months. He basically already has gone that route.
Oh, 100%. Look, we've said it since day one. People got so like in their feelings about Jackson Hinkle when I was like, he's a finger in your wind commentator, bro. As soon as I heard him talk about women, I was like, you're not an authentic leftist if you don't feel this way, if you feel this way about your comrades. But that's neither here nor there to this fucking conversation, right? The other thing I want to point out is that one, Donald Trump accomplished none of those things, which he kind of concedes in this earlier part. He's like, oh, Donald Trump had some like missteps. You mean with like the extrajudicial killings and the like fucking all the heinous shit that he did, and he didn't pull out of Afghanistan, and he didn't fucking, and he increased the military budget and yada, 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 all of those things that he did. But yeah, I wanted to make the point that it's not like the MAGA movement has left Donald Trump behind. It's not like they've moved on to some sort of new vision for themselves in a way that, like, I think you could argue that you've seen way more of on the left moving past Bernie Sanders than you have seen MAGA move past fucking Donald Trump. And look, I'll actually challenge Jackson. I don't know how much time this guy spent outside of like LA or DC or like any of the like major metropolis hubs, but when I was in fucking Louisville, Kentucky the other day, I saw people in Trump 2024 hats. I saw a dude in Trump 2024 hat in Nashville at Bolton's fucking hot fish and chicken or whatever the fuck. I saw multiple people repping MAGA merch the entire time I was out there. I went to the fucking Bourbon Festival. I saw some Trump merch and I was like, holy shit, you guys are like just waiting for 2024 to happen. Like, I don't see any like Bernie Sanders 2024 shit out there. I don't see any I don't even see any Joe Biden 2024 shit, but I saw multiple instances. I'm talking like more than 3, less than 7 people wearing like MAGA or like, Trump 2024 paraphernalia, like make this country great again. And I mean, I never see that anywhere else. I did see 2 Charles Bookers signed though, so I guess that evens it out. But no, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way that these people aren't just married to Donald Trump. The evangelical movement is diametrically opposed to the communist movement, and when it comes to personal autonomy, like, no, the left is not going to let you guys fucking give up the fucking civil bodily autonomy of people who want to, you know, have a fucking abortion, right? Like, we don't agree on that. And also, he makes this illusion that MAGA people want to nationalize big tech. I've never once in my entire fucking life heard Josh Hawley, like I said, they want to regulate big tech. They want to make it so you can't be mean to Republicans on there. That's what they want to do. They don't want to make it so that the fucking public owns and that workers have democratic control of their fucking corporations. Like, are you fucking out of your mind? You clearly don't believe this. You're just spouting bullshit.
100%. I mean, Donald Trump is literally like the poster boy of American capitalism. You think his followers are somehow going to fall in line behind fucking communism, the ideals of Marxism? Are you kidding me? It's just the most ridiculous thing ever. It would literally be less stupid to say I'm a Joe Biden communist, even though that's equally fucking stupid. Thank you, by the way, Brian, for the 199. MAGA doesn't want to align with communists. Yeah, we have more proof of that later. Got some Truth Social posts actually to prove that point. But thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, shout out to you, Brian. We agree.
Yeah, and thank you also, Orca, for the 279. Jackson is a 22-year-old clout chaser, and it shows. Yep, you heard that here first. We've been calling Jackson a grifting right-wing piece of garbage for over a year now.
Yep.
And also thank you, Orca, for the 279 TYT clip on MAGA communism is worth a watch. I'll check that out at some point, Orca. Haven't had time to watch it yet, but thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah, we'll definitely check it out for sure. But thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for the super chats, and let's keep watching this absolute idiocy unfold.
Lose some more brain.
I see it as the goal of this project of MAGA communism to be able to highlight the contradictions between the oligarchical ruling class and the working class movement itself, that is MAGA, and trying to uproot the liberalism and globalism and neoconservatism that's finding its way within MAGA party politics. So that's the broad goal. It's not an effort to.
I just want to say he just throws out every big word he knows. The oligarchical, LOL, but not going to bust his balls for that mispronunciation. Then he has to put in like neoconservative, globalist, fucking neoliberal. Like, it's just trying to make him. It's like it's a
uphold fascism or the duopoly, as some of those people may have put it, are detractors, but it's been trending on social media for the past week.
How is the MAGA movement anti-duopoly? Donald Trump is running as a fucking Republican, you moron. What do you think he's running as a fucking Green Party candidate? What do you think he's running as a People's Party candidate, you dunce? No, you fuck. You can't claim to be third party, but also MAGA. You like, there's just inherent contradictions. They don't even give a shit about addressing. It's just, oh, remember last week when I was pretending to be into third parties and third party? Oops, never mind. Now it's MAGA. Even though Donald Trump is literally a member of one of the 2 major parties in this country. Just complete and utter idiocy.
Where he served as the president. He literally served as the president and has every intention of running in the Republican primary again.
It won't stop, and a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of MAGA supporters are actually talking about it, and they think it's a great idea. So that's pretty much it.
So this is basically a lefties outreach to Trump supporters to join on the things, the issues that your views align. Is that what you're saying?
But
also, is it just me, or is Jimmy Dore like, no, this is absolute bullshit? like Jimmy Dore panders to the right wing all the time. There's no doubt about it. But even this, he's like
that freeze frame says it all, bro. It says it all. Everything is okay, Jackson. I know this is where my audience is going. Oh God, Jackson, what did I sign up for? Oh God. Okay, here we go. Like, it's embarrassing to even him, like, even with his low fucking standards for fucking the levels he will stoop to cater to the right wing. He's like, oh my God, this kid has no bar. And obviously he doesn't, because Jackson Hinkle is like a literal definition of a cloud chaser.
Yep. And as Jonathan Boyle says, thanks for the $5, Jonathan, Hexen trying to make horseshoe theory happen IRL. Yeah. I mean, he's basically proving all of the critics of like the Jimmy Dore left correct. All the people that said, oh, you're just trying to, you're just, using this as an excuse to grift the right wing. You're just trying to create a so-called red-brown alliance or a red-fash alliance. All those critics are being proved 100% correct by what Jackson is doing here. And Jimmy low-key knows it. he subconsciously knows that Jackson is exposing his entire grift with his complete and utter disregard for any sort of subtlety. Just by completely throwing out any sort of sophisticated subtlety or anything like that and just going full, red-brown alliance, literally. Yeah, he's kind of exposing the whole grift here, right?
Oh, dude, 100%. He's saying the quiet part out loud, and Jimmy's trying to figure out where he's gonna go from here. What radical leftist how quickly he can get Chris Hedges on the phone and be like, "See, I'm still fucking a leftist. See, Chris Hedges is gonna fucking throw adulation on me. He's like, I need to fucking gain some clout with anybody left in my audience that like really believes in Medicare for all and like actually how we could fucking feasibly get there, and not just like I like Ron DeSantis, but Jimmy tells the truth," which is like 95% of his comment section now. How indicative of his authentic audience that is, I mean, I would wager it says a lot, but anyway, yeah. Also the horseshoe theory, I used to argue that was fake, but people like Jackson with like absolutely no regard for reality and also just I think that the thing about Jackson is that I think he just looked at Jimmy's blueprint, which was like grift the right, and he was like, how do I do that times infinity? And now Jimmy's like, fuck, everybody knows this kid was following my blueprint, right? And it's so funny because like they were just he was just following to where the comment section was feeding him, like, oh, you're a young Jimmy Dore, you're gonna be a fucking superstar, all the shit people said about me and Gavin before we started busting Jimmy's balls on a regular basis, right? And he just rode that shit to the fucking sunset.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And also thank you, Hysteric Raider, for the $2. I'm sad that RBO promotes Jackson Hinkle. I haven't been paying a ton of attention to their content on Hinkle, but I do know that they did disagree with him on the whole MAGA communism thing. It's not like they were just going along with that from what I saw. So I don't know if that's quite accurate to say they promoted him. I think they were actually pushing back a fair amount on his bullshit lately, but I might be wrong about that. Like I said, haven't been paying a ton of attention.
Yeah, I haven't watched RBO in a while, but I mean, they make their own content.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, though, Hysteric Raider. Really appreciate that. And thank you also, Kelly, for the $9.99. Can't believe that segment was real. Hey, everyone, let's unite with 3%ers, Oath Keepers, and Proud Boys. It'll go down well. Embarrassing AF. Yeah, thank you so much, Kelly. Really appreciate it. And like I said, I mean, Jimmy and Jackson are basically proving all the critics correct about, what their intention was all along.
Yeah, I mean, what was that dude's name that was like the original Proud Boy that Jimmy was boosting that we had? Yeah, or what? Yeah, Boogaloo Boy. What was his name? Fuck, it doesn't matter. Magnus, I think, or something like that. Yeah, something like that. Either way, Jimmy had him on, and it like ignited this whole thing. So you can trace Jackson Hinkle's entire fucking arc to that one moment, that one segment, and all the fucking shitstorm of controversy that was erupted. So.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Kelly. Really appreciate the super chat, though. And let's keep watching because this. Oh wait, thank you also, Levon Huey, for the $4.99. Horseshoe theory is real for the unaffected. Do you know what that?
I think he's saying that like I thought it wasn't real, and he was like, well, it's only real if you don't actually like live this shit. Like you're obviously never gonna go from being somebody who needs fucking healthcare to being like, oh well, fucking X, Y, and Z Republican culture war issue is actually number one.
Yeah. That makes sense. Thank you so much, Levon. Really appreciate that. And yeah, this is about to get a lot funnier. So let's keep watching, guys. Again, it just kills me how Jimmy's reacting to this. He's trying to go along with it, but you can tell he's just like, come on, bro.
Jackson bringing down the wall.
That's pretty much it.
So this is basically a lefty's outreach to Trump supporters to join on the things, the issues that your views align. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. But staying true to it and exposing people like Ron DeSantis, who might be courting a right-wing populist following through the politics that he's putting forward as governor of Florida. But at the end of the day, someone like Ron DeSantis does not differ at all from the rhino Republicans. He is a rhino Republican when it comes to the most important issues, his foreign policy. And his views on the intelligence community. So being able to highlight those contradictions.
And again, I mean, that's true about Ron DeSantis. Like he is a piece of shit and a faux populist and all that stuff. But how is fucking Donald Trump somehow the alternative that's better? Like Donald Trump postured as a populist, but he was a fucking phony all along, which was proven by his governance, his actual job, what he did as president. He got out of the Iran deal. He assassinated Qasem Soleimani. He continued to imprison and persecute Julian Assange. I mean, over and over and over again, this guy totally towed the line and did the bidding of the deep state, if you want to call it that, or the Pentagon or whatever. He was a spineless fuck. He didn't put up a fight. He never resisted the powers that be. He let them stomp all over him. And we have proof of it because, again, he literally was already president.
Not only did he let them stomp all over him, but he actually vetoed. He vetoed, guys. Listen to this. This is your like free speech warrior MAGA hero chieftain, right? After Saudi Arabia's Prince Mohammed bin Salman, after he fucking goes out and has Jamal Khashoggi killed for being a reporter, right, and exposing this. There's a lot of turmoil in the United States, and for that reason, guys like Ro Khanna and to his very limited credit, what's his fuck from Kentucky that's up for re-election, Rand Paul. Yeah, they got together and they had this legislation that was like, hey man, let's stop fucking supplying weapons to Saudi Arabia, and that's doing a literal genocide in Yemen right now. You want to talk to me like Donald Trump has good fucking foreign policy? Listen to this fucking crime of the century. We get, by a miracle, bipartisan legislation to end the United States role in the fucking Saudi-led genocide of Yemen, right? Not that Joe Biden's better on this, but I'm not fucking calling myself a Biden communist. He then goes out, and after this bipartisan piece of legislation, not shit gets passed in the United States. This piece does. He vetoes it and says, no, we're going to continue to profit off of the death, destruction, and starvation of mothers and babies and children. That's your guy.
Now, what do you say to the critics? Well, first of all, let me bring in Craig Pasta. Now, what are your feelings about MAGA communism?
Well, first off, I want to say that I don't think it's disingenuous. I just think it's completely wrong. I go to a lot of election integrity events, and right now those are filled with MAGA people out there because they feel they were, done wrong in the last election. So that is why I get to speak with a lot of MAGA people. And it's just diametrically opposed to each other. When you go to these events and you hear a lot of MAGA people, 9 times out of 10, their number one enemy is communism. They'll say it all the time. Oh, Marxism, communism, that's the problem. Even more than China, even more than Bill Gates and our good buddy over there, Jeff Bezos, or any type of oligarch. This is the thing they fear most. And at the end of the day, they feel that Marxism, and I honestly feel that a lot of communists in the United States, people who call themselves communists, I believe they're mostly cappuccino communists. I call them that. I don't think they really understand
like
what
Jackson
communism is, like Jackson does, and some of our friends who've probably read about theory and Engels and all these other people. But they feel that it's a complete opposite of what they're trying to achieve.
I got to go back one sec because that was pretty funny. First of all, Jackson Hinkle is literally the definition of a cappuccino communist, which is a term I actually like. So shout out to you for coming up. If you came up with that pasta, that's a good one. But also, this is kind of funny.
Like Jackson does, and some of our friends who've probably read about theory and Engels and all these other people.
Theory and Engels and all these other people. You can tell we're listening to real like socialist scholars right here, guys. All these Engels and the theory and all these other books and texts and stuff. Yeah, those guys really know about communism. Trust me.
At least Gavin and I don't bullshit you guys like this. Like, you know what I mean? At least I don't fucking bullshit you guys that I'm a fucking genius. I don't need to tell you that I understand fucking the intricate theories of like Marx's Capital Volume 1 and 2 to understand that the people in this country are getting fucked. I live every day as a regular working class person. That's how I know. I go to fucking work as a bar and I listen to people tell me about how they can't fucking afford to pay their student loans, or like fucking, oh, my teeth hurt and I don't fucking have to go to the dentist, right? Like, you know, and I rarely get work, like I get like 50-50 split working class people. I also have to fucking serve the yuppies, so I remember who to hate.
Exactly. Thank you, by the way, Matt Ocelot God. Really appreciate you for the $2. Non-compete did a great takedown of MAGAcom. I'll definitely have to check that out. Thank you so much, Matt Ocelot God.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you. I don't know who non-compete is, but I'll check it out if it's good.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's keep watching. We'll get to the other super chats in a second, but I don't want to break the momentum of this.
But they feel that it's a complete opposite of what they're trying to achieve. They are capitalists through and through. They believe in choice, and they believe that Marxism and communism is the exact opposite. So when you are around MAGA people, you'll know right off the bat. You know, I kind of sent a friend a link today saying that I'm going to be on Jimmy Dore with my good friend Jackson Hinkle, and we're going to be talking about MAGA communism. And they were like, what the heck is that? You know, they've never heard about it before. So number one, I don't think it exists at all. Number two, even though we are desperate for some type of unity with the working class, we need to stay away from labels. You know, you guys say it all the time. You know, when you're building a coalition of working class people, you don't ask who's a communist, who's a Marxist, who's a capitalist, who's a.
And that's actually a good point. You know, honestly, don't agree with Pasta on a lot. We've made fun of him on the show before, but this is actually a perfectly sound point that he's making. That's very accurate. Bringing, if you're trying to unite the working class, that's fine. Like, obviously there are some areas of agreement between working class people, whether you're on the left or the right, like, when it comes to outsourcing and stuff like that. Like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with like uniting the working class people, but when you start bringing the word communism into it, you really think that's going to help your goal of organizing along class lines? You want to go to a fucking MAGA rally and start, oh, I'm a communist, you want to help me achieve my political goals? You'd be better off just not saying that at all. Like, how is this in any way fucking helpful if your goal is just to organize around class lines? To say, oh, I'm a communist, that's never going to be a good idea, even if you're not at a MAGA rally. If you can just go to the fucking local, labor organizers or whatever, like any working class people, and you start talking about fucking Marx and Lenin and communism and social, it's unnecessary. It's not a good idea. It's going to automatically turn off like 80% of the people there. Just like how if you go in there and say, I'm a fucking fascist or something like that, like people are going to like it. If you start throwing around political labels and political terminology to working class people, most of them are going to get turned off. Why would you even bring that into it?
Yeah, and on top of that, it does kind of go against, as Pasta lays out like pretty explicitly here. It goes against everything that they've argued for the last like 8 to 15 months. It feels like that we have to get away from the two-party system. It's like, no, actually what we want to do is we want to go with the MAGA movement, which is so lock fucking step in the Republican Party. They are entrenched in so much so that they have a fucking basically a lock if Donald Trump decides to run again, which I'm almost positive he will, like 99.99% sure he's going to run again. And if he does, he will win the fucking Republican primary, undoubtedly. So what? Now we're working inside the fucking parameters of the corporate duopoly. So instead, you're telling me that you said I'm fucking insane for even toying with the idea that having Bernie Sanders run in the Democratic primary is just like fucking the definition of insanity, blah, 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 that fake Einstein quote. No, what we need to do is we actually need to run with the MAGA people into the Republican Party because they're somehow serious about workers' rights. Do you remember what the fuck happened the last time the Republicans were in charge? Massive tax cut for the rich, new not infrastructure deal, new like fucking basically new NAFTA, Trump's basically reiteration of NAFTA that was just as shitty for the American workforce, didn't bring a single goddamn job home in a meaningful way. All this fucking horseshit. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like Christina says. Thank you, Christina, for the $4.99. Wait, what? Jimmy has been dragging Bernie for 6 years for not forming his own third party, and Jimmy's into this BS movement now. Yeah, it's totally crazy. Like, again, if you're going to unite communists with any working class people, you would think like the folks that were more sympathetic to Bernie, the self-identified democratic socialists, might be a good place to start. But no, fuck the DSA, fuck Bernie Sanders, fuck every left-wing commentator. They're not worth allying with. Push them all aside, smear them all, throw them in the trash. But yeah, let's go to the fucking MAGA movement and see about that. Let's see if we can coalition build with fucking MAGA voters. Like, it's so just dumb, and obviously it's just blatantly obvious what they're doing again, and just grifting the right wing. It's about to become super profitable to be a content creator on the pro-Trump side of things. That's the way the winds are blowing. And these grifters, it's ironic they're calling them communists because what they're doing is pure capitalism. They see a profit and they're gravitating towards it. Morals be damned, principles be damned. There's some money to be made over here. Let's go make that fucking money. That's all this is.
100%. And it's evidenced on both sides of the aisle, right? Back in the day, there used to actually be a fuck ton of money to be made with the Bernie Sanders kind of content. And we were actually just discussing that yesterday on the live stream. We were talking about how Yank has always kind of seemed like a conservative that was just adopting fucking, progressive policies, but his outlook was actually like kind of old school and traditional, right? He wasn't like an actual like full-on leftist in his heart. He just saw a lane, right? Jackson might not be a fucking right winger in his heart. I don't know what the fuck he is. He's a clout chaser. I know that. And he's going to run where the winds are going. And right now it's tough to run a YouTube channel with authentic progressive values because the energy is not here on the internet anymore, right? You have to do this because you actually believe. And people are going to stop doing that and they're going to start catering to the right. And that's why you see what's happening with Jackson 100%. Shout out to you, Christina.
Yeah, thank you. And also thank you, Tommy. Really appreciate that $10 super sticker. Really, really appreciate that. Let's keep going.
Trump supporter, who's a Democrat, who's a Republican. Labels only separate us. It's when we remove the labels and come together on our common goals and the working class and our economic struggles, then we can bring it together. This, to me, is just something that can be used to weaponize and divide us even more. So even though we are desperate for some form of coalition, I just think this whole thing is just definitely non-existent, and it is a way of separating us even further.
So Jackson, what do you say to that?
I think those are some good points, but at the end of the day, I think that the MAGA communism hashtag or trend, whatever, is actually breaking down the labels further. It's like it's so chaotic, it's so in your face that when people question it and they begin to discuss it, and I've done that today. I was on One America News Network. I never thought in my life I've ever be on like a broadcast like that. And I was talking to the host, and we were actually able to break down, what it is that we all agree on. And he was like, wow, I think that we actually agree.
So why don't you go do that with like fucking Joe Biden voters or something? Like I can't imagine these people having the same reaction if all of a sudden, me and Zach over here at the freaking Vanguard were, let's embrace Biden communism and sit down with a bunch of, vote blue no matter who people and ask them about areas where we agree. Well, we agree on this issue, we agree on that issue, we agree on this issue. Like, would they have this reaction? Oh, they're just uniting the working class. No, they'd say, you're sheep herding people into the fucking Democratic Party, you're sheep herding people into the duopoly. Of course that would be the reaction, but because it's MAGA, it's somehow different.
Yeah, these are people who made their entire living by calling out people over minute fringe disagreements and then burning the entire fucking bridge with them and acting like they were a fraud and that anybody who disagreed with them was a liar and, as you said, a sheep herder. So just absolutely antithetical to everything that they've positioned themselves as. But honestly, it's just to be eye-catching. So it's fucking, I mean, that's what it is.
On a lot of the things that we're talking about here. And through these conversations and through highlighting the contradictions that don't align between left and a right in America, but between the top and the bottom, we're able to further come together and actually begin to address these issues. I think that you're 100% right that we need to focus on the issues, but the idea behind MAGA communism is focusing on the issues at hand, and it's not an effort to divide anybody or anything like that. And the whole idea is to unite Marxists with MAGA, and I think it's working quite well. It's starting a lot of really big conversations, and at least in the online community, I've seen a lot of MAGA people coming together with Marxists and saying, we actually agree on more than we disagree on, and maybe people didn't previously see this. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
So people conflate, I think, Marxism with the Russia-style communism, which wasn't really pure communism. It just became authoritarianism. So I think when you hear people say things like, they're like when you hear them say, oh, Trudeau is communist, right?
Yes.
They don't mean he's communist. They mean he's an authoritarian, because we were brought up my whole life in the United States that communism equaled authoritarianism. And so I think people conflate authoritarianism with communism. And that's why people who call themselves or consider themselves conservative or right wing would have an allergic reaction to the term communism. And I don't think Marxism and communism are the same thing, right? I mean, Marxism wasn't. How do you define communism, Jackson?
They're the same thing. They're the same thing. I feel like.
Hey, just really quickly, Gavin, off the top of your head, who wrote the Communist Manifesto?
Karl Marx and Engels.
What? I don't really think that Marxism is related to his fucking magnum opus. That's weird.
Yeah, this is pretty funny. He asked him this question, and then Jackson gives like it makes it way more fucking confusing for people that don't already understand these terms.
Marxism and communism are the same thing, right? I mean, Marxism wasn't. How do you define communism, Jackson?
They're the same thing. They're the same thing. I feel like in America, though, these terms have been bastardized in different ways. So
you're bastardizing these fucking terms, bro. You're the one bastardizing these terms. You think MAGA communism isn't a bastardization of what Karl Marx stood for? You fuck, you dunce. Oh my God. Also, just way to not even answer Jimmy Dore's question here, because Jimmy's clearly like, it at least seems like he's trying to engage with this idea in good faith and trying to like wrap his mind around it to whatever extent you can. So he's like, what do you even mean by communism? Like, what is your definition of communism? Jackson doesn't even give him an answer. He literally does not define communism in any way, shape, or form. So how are you going to say that we're uniting MAGA around these ideas of Marxism if you can't even explain what Marxism is, or if you can't even explain what communism is? So again, listen to this again. Jimmy, in good faith, asks him, what is communism to you? And then watch Jimmy Dore's face as Jackson replies.
Them are the same thing, right? I mean, Marxism wasn't. How do you define communism, Jackson?
They're the same thing. They're the same thing. I feel like in America, though, these terms have been bastardized in different ways. So, socialism means one thing to a lot of people. Communism might mean one thing to a lot of people, but they mean the same thing. If you actually...
He asked what it meant to you. He said, what does it mean to you? What's your definition? And he just got straight fucking gobbledygook.
It's quite Trumpy in the way that he responds to a lot of these questions. You can tell he's been doing his homework. He knows exactly what to do. He always pivots back to these two very Trumpian things like this right here. He'll just be like, oh yeah, it's all this, nor here nor there, whatever, it's all relative, it's all the same thing. And really the powers that be the media has really corrupted people's understanding of this kind of thing. So he goes back to that well a lot, and he also does his own version of the many people are saying this thing. It's been trending on Twitter. This is a very popular idea. We're reaching a lot of people with this idea. We're getting a lot of great conversations started, folks, etc., etc. So he just kind of devolves into those kinds of things. But it's clear he doesn't have a fucking goddamn clue. If you pressed him on this, like, he's not going to be like, a specter is haunting Europe. Like, he's not going to fucking have read the Communist Manifesto at all. Like, maybe he like fucking skimmed it. I don't know if he could get it through his fucking bird brain or not. But clearly, he has no concept of what he's actually arguing for. And that's what the whole shtick of this guy is. He's just like a test crammer that gets in front of a mic and says whatever like the fucking Gray Zone and Danny Haifong have fucking put out.
Although he actually hates Danny Haifong now because Danny Haifong dared to push back on the MAGA communism thing, and he's friends with Ben Norton, so Jackson hates him now. Anyway, let's keep going.
Read the text, they mean the same thing.
Oh.
But what I think that we need to focus on is how communism translates into the material reality of our country. We can take things, and I discussed this with the conservative on OAN today, we can take things like the pro-industrial mindset, pro-growth mindset from China and from the Soviet Union, while still recognizing that we have many cultural disagreements and disagreements based upon governance with these two models. Take the good things from the communists there, apply it to America while respecting the rich history of labor struggles and progressive history that we have in this country, and fighting for more growth, more industrialization, more wealth for all. At the end of the day, that's what it is. It's we want people to have more wealth. We want to lift the masses from their knees.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but I do still think that when you do equate this whole MAGA and communism situation, you're actually just kind of separating that particular bond can be together, because the MAGA people are hardcore capitalists. And I also want to point out that I think that we can't leave out the fact, Jackson, and I think you'll agree to as well, is that a lot of people who call themselves communists in the United States, and most of the MAGA people, they kind of equate the Marxism with a campus Marxism, with this kind of like culture wars that came along way after Marx was gone. And that is a very divisive tactic. So therefore, they can't get away from that. I do agree that we do need to have more discussions about what people want, because I don't think the communists in this country really are full-blown communists. I believe they are more about a labor movement, a working movement, and that's what they want. And that's what we need to focus on. Anytime we bring this in, this MAGA and communism, it's just something that's completely diametrically opposed, Capitalists believe in choice. They believe that the Marxism takes away that choice, and they don't want to be cornered into that kind of ideology.
So how would you, so you kind of agree? To me, it's just putting a label on what Christian Smalls did in the Staten Island, right? It's finding common ground with people of different political persuasions and then uniting around those ideas. But you think is it the label, Craig, called MAGA communism that's off-putting? Would you be if he just called it Workers Unite or something?
Absolutely. And that's what we should do. That's what we've been fighting for. I just believe this is going to be something that can be weaponized to further divide us. It's the labels. Labels separate us. Our human needs bring us together. And that's what we need to stay concentrated on. And I also just feel that it doesn't exist. For most MAGA people, they're like, what are you talking about? However, I do believe that a discussion needs to be had about the things that we need. And I think that when people do call themselves a communist in the United States, they are more kind of like all about the labor movement and labor rights. That's what it's all about. And that's what we need to concentrate on, because if you just talk about labor and you keep the Marxism out of it, and you keep the MAGA out of it, that's when we come together. As soon as you
I'm pretty sure we can replay this, but I might be fucking this up. But the first time he talked about, he was like, "Well, I fear, Jackson, that most people, when they say communism, they're actually just talking about like campus issues and blah blah blah." Like, okay, like you're prepared to throw marginalized communities under the bus. I don't know what you're like dissing that chapter of Marxism for. But then he turns right around, and in his next argument, he was like, "Communism is what people want to think about communism as like the working class." I'm like, that just seems like.
I think what he was saying was that when you talk to your average right winger and you bring up Marxism, they think about what he called campus Marxism, which would just be kind of like the culture war and stuff. Like people like Jordan Peterson always refer to modern day leftism as like cultural Marxism, and like they basically just use it as a scary
Postmodern neo-Marxism.
Right, postmodern neo-Marxism, like all these scary words that people like Jordan Peterson use to try to sound more intellectual than they actually are. So I think that's what Pasta is referring to, and he's actually not wrong. Again, somehow this man sounds smart in comparison to who he's talking to. But he's not wrong. If you just go up to your average Republican or your average person at a Trump rally and you start talking about Marxism, they're not going to be thinking about like workers' rights and that kind of stuff. They're going to be thinking about like the pink-haired college campus leftist that's trying to get Ben Shapiro canceled or something like that. Again, because these words don't actually mean anything to them. It's all just been reduced down to buzzwords to scare them.
Okay, yeah. See, I must have misunderstood him, because what I thought he was saying was that was the majority of the like communist in America. I was like, actually, both the majority of the like actual serious like Dem socialist communist authentic left in America is actually very, very, very rooted in worker issues. It would be a misnomer to think that they were all just like willy-nilly out here fucking like supporting the pink-haired college campus. It's actually quite the opposite. If you look at like the Wobblies, or if you look at DSA, the amount of work that they do on the ground, it's absolutely insane, and it is immeasurable compared to anything that the MAGA movement has produced for the worker movement.
100%. Thank you, by the way, Bruce Stevens, for the 499. Check out the RBN video where they talked to Jackson about patriotic socialism. They actually mentioned you guys in that one. Wow. Thanks for letting us know, Bruce. Did they mention us in a positive light or a negative light? I'd be interested in knowing. Let us know what they said about us.
I could place my bet now.
Yeah, let us know, Bruce, because I'm probably not going to fish through that whole like 2-hour long debate with this jackass right now to find what they said about us. But feel free to let us know if they were talking some shit or if they were, singing our praises. Either way, let us know, Bruce. Thanks so much for the 499. Do you have any response to that one, Zach?
No, I was just gonna say I have an idea, but anyway.
Anyway, thank you so much, Bruce. Thank you, Virtuoso, for the $10. You can't be a patriotic socialist and be a communist. Communists value internationalism and a cooperation between nation states to uproot capitalism, something Hinkle would lazily disregard as globalism. Yeah, that's 100% true. And I mean, he doesn't actually believe in anything. He doesn't care about anything. He's not an actual communist. I promise you guys, in a matter of months, he won't even be talking about communism. He'll just be talking about MAGA. It's really only a matter of time before he drops communism out of MAGA communism and it just becomes MAGA. Come 2024, assuming that Donald Trump's not literally in fucking jail and unable to run, assuming that Donald Trump is running in 2024, I will bet my entire fucking savings, my menial savings on the fact that Jackson will be making 100% pro-Trump content. He's not going to be advocating for third parties. He's not going to be advocating for the fucking shitty People's Party. He's going to be advocating for Donald Trump and for Donald Trump to be president. 100%. I will eat my shoe on camera if I'm wrong.
Dude, do you remember just the other day there was a video, or not the other day, it was like a matter of like maybe a few months ago, but it was a whole compilation vid of the evolution of Jackson Hinkle, and we were like, what did we tell you guys? What did we didn't need all this time to gather the evidence, but it was like, goes from him like talking about like Joe Biden being like the necessary guy after Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and the fucking, he had the tweet where he was like immortalizing Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and then and like all this kind of shit. I can't, like, I've said this a million times. You are a mark if you keep falling for this guy, because you guys are all like, oh, we only care if commentators are trustworthy. This guy's revealed himself about 30 million times to be just a fucking, like, just a bullhorn for whatever he thinks an audience wants to hear. He's creating an echo chamber for people, mostly boomers, who want to see a younger version of Jimmy Dore, and he's even taking it too far for Jimmy now.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, thank you so much, Virtuoso, for the $10. Really appreciate that. I want to get to a few more super chats before we keep watching. Thank you so much for the 199, Renzo. Dore's video on the MV fiasco was so dishonest. I'll have to check that one out. I'm not actually sure which video you're talking about.
Oh, I think I imagine they're talking about the Martha's Vineyard thing that he was covering, and yeah, I haven't watched what Jimmy had to say about that, but I can't imagine I would agree with it.
Yeah, I can't imagine I would either. Thank you though, Renzo. I'll have to check that one out. Thank you also, Das Bosa Fleisch. Haven't seen you in a minute, Das Bosa Fleisch. Welcome back. Thanks so much for the $4.99. I think Hannity once admitted he's playing a role. Is Jimmy taking that path as well? Speaking out your honest beliefs must be a lot more relaxing. I mean, like I said, there's no denying he's pandering a lot to the right wing. So whether or not that's his true self, I can't say for certain. But it's definitely not the Jimmy Dore that I remember and the one that I used to fuck with.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think, it's about trying to maintain relevance, right? The bottom fell out for the progressive movement. You either fucking pivoted or you were just like, oh, I guess we're having less reach now and we're being authentic and we're rebuilding. And, you can see the difference in the channels that chose to do that versus the ones that didn't. So thank you for the super chat, Dosbos Flash. Glad to see you back in the chat. And we, as always, really appreciate your donation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you also, Hysteric Raider. Once again, Haxon Jinkle is Rave Dubin's Sith apprentice. Bro, he makes Dave Rubin look downright subtle in his grift. Dave Rubin, he took like 3 or 4 years to finish his grift. Like he went from, oh, I'm a liberal, to, oh, I'm a classical liberal, to, oh, I'm a libertarian, to, oh, now I'm just a straight up right-wing chud. Jackson Hinkle did the same thing in like months, like a matter of like 7 months. He went from being like a progressive, like Bernie bro, to being like a literal Trump supporter in less than a year. Again, he makes Rave Dubin's grift transition, whatever you want to call it, he makes him look downright freaking subtle and restrained.
Oh yeah, dude. And to be fair, like the dude he followed exactly where the numbers were. And you can just see it as a massive through line. Like what he's doing right now is, I don't know how he gets around YouTube's restrictions. He's actually performing oral sex on Vladimir Putin right now, live on his channel as we speak. I can't fucking believe it. Breaking news, guys. But anyway, that's all he does. And there's like 8.9 thousand people watching him right now. And it's fucking insane that he's just like blown the hell up, being like an absolute sheer propagandist and having no fucking beliefs of his own. But that just shows you exactly what the YouTube algorithm promotes, guys, and exactly what people crave in their media, whether it's independent or legacy.
You put those labels there, it separates us.
Yeah, Jackson, why are you separating us? With your
I think the biggest thing we need to come together on, and what MAGA and communists probably align on most, is overcoming the deep state and the globalists. And globalism is unique right now. I mean, we're seeing that unfold in Europe. The globalists and the capitalists are fighting against each other. And we need to overcome the globalists. And I think that what you see them doing with the energy markets, with big agriculture, with big pharma, with big tech, are all things that we have common ground with MAGA on. And I think that rather than avoiding the difficult question of what Marxism and communism is, we should actually,
like you constantly do,
and unite on those common principles that we have. Despite different worldviews, we arrive at the same exact location.
All right. Well, I don't know, that the term is a little rough. That's all. It is a rough term. You know that, right? It hits you a couple different ways.
It's provocative, but that's why it's trending on Twitter right now.
Is it trending?
Been trending for the past week.
Yeah. But some of the comments are very, very negative. They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm not saying overall. And once again,
overall, it's positive.
I've seen some, well, first
that's
of all,
total bullshit. Literally, the MAGA communism and Jackson Hinkle in general is the fucking laughing stock of the entire internet, of all of Twitter. All the conversations are negative. It's all people mocking it. It's all people acknowledging what a grifting piece of shit this guy is and what a fucking loser he is. Yeah. So, again, I'm no fan of the fucking convo couch, but you have to be honest. Pasta is at least keeping it somewhat real here. He's definitely has on the kids' gloves because he doesn't want to, make Jackson and all his followers butthurt and unsubscribe en masse from the Convo Couch. But still, at least he's like bringing some semblance of honesty to this conversation.
Dude, it's wild because also Jimmy seems kind of like it's like throwback. Like, wow, you're actually you put your real reasonable cap on today, Jimmy, and you were like, hey man, I think I don't know if you heard he was like that term, man, it's rough. It kind of hits you like, and it's like, oh, it's provocative. It's so politically unserious, right? So as long as everybody is on the same page there's absolutely no serious political movement behind that. When he says it's been trending for 3 days or 3 weeks or however long it's been a week. It's because you have been an absolute mockery. You've become beyond parody, and everybody loves to just take a fat shit on you. And I guess I have to thank you for that because we're joining in.
Yeah, it's funny stuff, guys. It's real funny stuff. But again, it's like, can I come on the Jimmy Dore show and have a conversation about Joe Biden communism? Like, imagine even entertaining such a stupid notion, sitting here and acting like, oh, this is a real reasonable conversation to have. It's literally just as fucking stupid. Let's keep watching though.
Put it on Getter and let's see if you get the same response that you do on Twitter. And we'll see. Most of the MAGA people are hanging out on Getter. They've already left Twitter, so we'll see.
Okay, so there it is. We still have, so that's our definition of MAGA communism. I still don't know what communism is. They say it's Marxism, but I don't think so. I think Marx again, I've read very little, but
you haven't read Lenin, Jimmy? Come on.
But correct. So you guys probably have read more than me. So Marx, all he did was really give a critique of capitalism. He didn't really lay out a new economic system. He just kind of critiqued capitalism so people understood what the F capitalism was, right? Am I wrong?
As well as how we should view the world through the scientific lens of dialectical materialism. And I think that beyond anything else.
Oh yeah, that really cleared it up for Jimmy. You take someone who's already confused about these terminologies. Oh, you don't understand what communism is? Oh, it's dialectical materialism. Now I'm sure you'll understand what it is.
For all the people out here who want to pretend that this is like the peak political commentary that you can fucking find on the internet, that this is the home of the only truth telling. These are people that are literally always Jackson Eagle is a flag waving communist. He has nothing. When Jimmy was like, he never really laid out a plan. He has no, the most easy thing in the world to say, if you actually have a fucking head screwed on your shoulders, is to be like, he actually did lay out this plan. Yes, it's true that Capital was a 2-part critique, a massive criticism of capitalism. It explored how we got to capitalism, how we could move beyond capitalism. And then him and this researcher guy, who your homeboy Yo Pasta mentioned, along with famous writers like Theory, got together and wrote a pamphlet, right? And that pamphlet was called The Communist Manifesto. So yeah, you're wrong, Jimmy, when you say that Marxism isn't communism. Marx thought up fucking communism, okay? You're 100% correct when you realize that it was bastardized and it was turned into a totalitarian regime that was called Stalinism, right? I don't know anything about this, but I actually care, and I actually have done some homework, and I've read a couple of books, and I read the fucking paperback Communist Manifesto that's like this fucking big, and I struggled through all the read along to the fucking Capital Volume 1 because it's free on the fucking internet. You don't even have to go to the library to read it, okay? I've done the baseline amount of work, and I could run circles around these people, let alone having a guest that's actually researched and a scholar in this matter. And do you know what it really reminds me of? It reminds me of when Jordan Peterson debated Slavoj Žižek about fucking it was about Marxism, right? Which we mentioned earlier. JP always calls it postmodern neo-Marxism, which means absolutely nothing. It's a made-up terminology, just like half the shit that Jackson spits out of his mouth, like globalism and all this kind of other horse shit. None of them can answer Jimmy's simple question. Jimmy, Karl Marx conceived of communism as a fucking road beyond capitalism, right? When the workers were going to rise up, and admittedly, there are some criticisms that you can make of his forecasting, right? We haven't risen up yet, and he definitely thought we would have by now. All these different kinds of things. But yes, he definitely did. He laid an entire manifesto out, dog. It was called the Communist Manifesto. How the fuck do you not know this? How the fuck do you guys not know this? And yet you're trying to call for MAGA communism? It's clear that all you are fucking parrots for what is fucking trendy or what's controversial. you've abandoned any slate of real conviction because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. These people don't give a single fuck about communism, let alone the actual working class people who they claim to advocate for. It's all about their bottom line. And again, it's ironic because they are capitalists. He's going where the fucking money is. That's all he's doing. Pure capitalism.
Has taught us that if we have these common goals, then we should be uniting together on the common goals as a working class rather than fictitious party lines.
Okay, I just somehow you're going to get me in trouble, Jackson. I don't know how, but somehow you're going to wreck everything. I just
saying the quiet part out loud.
But
yeah, I can't tell how much he was joking there. Like I don't know if there's some like, inside joke that we're not familiar with, but that sounded like pretty legit, right? Like he's like, I don't know. Let's listen to it again.
How you're going to get me in trouble, Jackson. I don't know how, but somehow you're going to wreck everything. I just feel it. But okay.
Are you running for president yet?
It's so tense.
That's one way I might get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Pressuring you to run for president.
I wish you were old enough because
I just want to say that Jimmy gives him a slight reprimand and he's like, oh, sorry, Jimmy. Let me pat you down and let me boost you back up. Are you running for president, Daddy?
Exactly. This is where it gets interesting though, guys.
Okay.
Are you running for president yet?
It's so tense.
That's one way I might get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Pressuring you to run for president.
I wish you were old enough because I would rather support you than me. But they're so vulnerable right now, meaning the establishment, the Republicans and the Democrats, for a candidate like me. And people are already getting ready to funnel progressive energy back into the Democratic Party. Like, oh, Nina Turner's going to run for president, or Marianne Williamson's going to run inside the Democratic Party. How the fuck did that work out for Bernie Sanders the last 2 times? It doesn't work out. You become a cuck to the establishment, and then you start doing evil all over the place, which is what they're doing. The squad and Bernie have been supporting fucking evil since Joe Biden got elected. And before that, when they supported the goddamn CARES Act. And nobody even still knows what happened with the CARES Act. And anyway, so, all right. Anything else you'd like to say about MAGA communism before we change subjects?
Oh, I'd like to say that, if you really are serious thinking about running for president, the Libertarian Party is really a party we need to be looking at, Jimmy. I call myself a leftist libertarian, and, maybe they have room for you over there,
So they're not on board for Medicare for all. But maybe I'd be the guy who changes their minds on that or something. I don't know. I was thinking about running in the Republican primary, right? Just because they don't have super delegates. But I'm sure they have ways to screw you too.
They have a control system over there too, as well. Their chosen ones are selected, not elected, as well.
How did Trump get through? And that's because that's what all this is about. January 6th. And this is to make sure that Trump can't run again. And the Republicans are just as afraid of him as the Democrats because they all serve the same oligarchs. So they're just as afraid because Trump would roll all over them again, I think. Virginia Beach, Richmond, Arlington, San Jose.
Those you said,
well, their chosen ones are selected, not elected, as well.
You said,
but I'm sure they have done that or something. I don't know. I was thinking about running in the Republican primary, right? Just because they don't have super delegates.
So, yeah, I mean, for one, he's not wrong. They don't have super delegates. That actually was one thing about the Republican Party that's ironically more Democratic than the Democratic Party. They don't have super delegates. So he's not wrong about that. What I really find hilarious about all of this, though, is thinking about Nick Brana and the movement for a People's Party and how somewhere in the world right now he's crying and weeping because they didn't even get brought up in that little conversation. They talked about the Libertarian Party. They talked about I'm thinking about running in the Republican Party, but we all know who's been fucking itching for Jimmy Dore to give them some credibility and some a veneer of seriousness, and that's Nick Brana and the People's Party, who's been just crazy advocating for Jimmy Dore to run in 2024 under their banner. So again, I think it's pretty funny that they got completely left out of the conversation. Jimmy Dore didn't even fucking mention the pathetic People's Party, which doesn't exist and has never run a single candidate. So yeah, I think that's pretty hilarious.
Oh yeah, you mean how you and I are both fake activists because we wouldn't get behind the one serious threat to the establishment that now Jimmy Dore, the fucking main pilot behind the fucking proponents of this, is not even fucking riding with it at all. Yeah, completely insane. This whole stream that or clip that we just reacted to, I can't believe that it exists. Yo Pasta or Craig Pasta or whatever his name is, he does come on top, but even him, for all the guy who was like, nobody is a communist understands theory, they just want to give rights to trans people, like he didn't have any fucking answers to jump in and be like, yes, Jimmy, there was a whole fucking plan laid out by Karl. Like, I was just like, what the hell? You want to fucking prop yourself up like you're a theory guy, but you don't have a kindergartner's understanding of communism? Like, this is absolutely insane. One, we take so much flack from the Jimmy Dore stands that are like, oh, fucking, like the Vanguard guys just want to run their heads against the wall through the Democratic Party. Jimmy says something really interesting, which he says at the end, that, you know, he wanted to run or he thought about running in the Republican primary because of the way that they don't have super delegates. Well, Jimmy hasn't been doing his fucking homework apparently for the last 4 years, because after the extreme controversy, they've massively reformed the way that super delegates work. It's actually much more similar to the Republican Party now. Obviously, it's not 100%. There's, as he mentioned, in the Republican Party and in the Democratic Party, there are still ways that they will put their thumbs on the scale, but it's not going to work the same way that it did in 2016. And that was, thanks in part to Bernie Sanders.
I will say, in Jimmy's defense, yes, they got rid of the first round of superdelegates, which is what really handicapped Bernie in 2016. But the second round of superdelegates still does exist. And that's what they were threatening Bernie with towards the end of the 2020 primary, when they were saying, oh, if you don't get a majority of the delegates and only a plurality, then the super delegates are going to vote and potentially take it away from you. So technically, the Democratic Party does still have super delegates, just not as many as they did in 2016.
Yeah, and if he were to secure a majority, so basically, if he'd had the same election results as he did in 2016 going into another election, it would have been, I believe he would have had the majority and not just the plurality, because it was only him and Hillary Clinton, right? So if he would have taken it away, then the super delegates wouldn't have. So, but instead, there were too many people. Obviously, it didn't work out that way. I'm just saying that if that's all that's standing in your way from running, I think that the Republicans would be very interested in handicapping them as well. And before they even did allow, or there was all this controversy back in 2016 when Trump was first running about like making him sign all of these disclosures that would prevent him from running as an independent. So they had their massive ways of handicapping, which obviously Jimmy alludes to. I just think it's hysterical that his whole show's premise has been abandon the two-party duopoly. And yet he's like, oh, I'll run into the two-party duopoly because they don't have fucking super delegates. It's like, well, the Democrats reformed their super delegate thing. Does that fucking absolve them of all of your criticisms that they've had? Like, I mean, I don't know. It just seemed a little fishy.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. And again, for someone who claims to be the biggest third-party advocate out there, and again, if you go to the People's Party Twitter, let's look at the People's Party Twitter. What's their pinned tweet? It's them begging Jimmy Dore to run on their platform, on their ticket. And they wrote a whole shitty little letter about it, or a little fucking article or whatever you want to call it, begging Jimmy Dore to run as a People's Party candidate. Well, sorry, Nick Brana. Your organization is such a fucking joke that even Jimmy Dore won't mention it anymore. Now he's talking about running as a fucking Republican.
Which, to be fair, I do not think he's going to do, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It would probably be the best way for him to get attention, right? If he actually wanted to run for president, and clearly he cares most about attention. So, I think he could. I don't know. I mean, obviously he wouldn't win, but in the same way that like Tulsi Gabbard only got a couple percentage in the polling in the Democratic primary, but it still exploded her career as a commentator and as a Fox News bobblehead. I mean, I certainly think he could get the same kind of result out of a run in the Republican primary.
I actually disagree. I don't think that there's, I honestly, I could see all of those reasons for that. But to me, I just think that Jimmy is smart enough. I don't think he would go for it. I just don't think he would do it. That's all I can say. I don't know why. I guess I feel like there's opportunities for him to get embarrassed in a way that he wouldn't like. I think Jimmy likes to have a lot more control in the situations that he's in. I think that as he's established himself as a commentator, it's a soft seat for him to do the Jimmy Dore show and everything is the way it is. I don't know if he has the maniacal fucking drive that Donald Trump did to like get this like 1 inch more of celebrity. Maybe he does, and I don't know. Maybe he does, but I see him thinking about it as like a great fantasy. I don't see him actually pulling the trigger and running in a Republican primary. I just don't.
We'll have to see. But don't underestimate the need for attention. Do not underestimate the just absolute craven disgusting need for attention from these people. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past him. We'll see. But one thing's for damn sure. He's not running with the goddamn People's Party. He ain't running with the goddamn Nick Brana and the fucking People's Party, because there is no People's Party. It's a goddamn joke. It's a fake party. They've never run a single candidate. So that's to me the ultimate takeaway. Not that he's going to run it all, but I just think it's funny.
Oh yeah, I mean, I honestly think, and this, I just think that he causes more shock and awe and serves more waves. I guess not with his audience anymore. I'm like, why not just run as a fucking, I don't know. Why not just run as like in the Libertarian Party or the Green Party, or I don't know. That fits your messaging so much more. But
because you won't get as much attention that way. You won't be able to be on TV on the fucking debate stage and shit. It's all about attention, 100%, and potentially securing a Fox News gig.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know.
We'll have to wait and find out. Hopefully he does it though, because that'll make for some just fucking golden content for us to react to here. So come on, Jimmy, do it. Prove us right. Prove us fucking right, bro. Anyway, that was hilarious. I'm glad we were able to break that video down and dispel some of these idiotic talking points that have been circulating about MAGA communism. By the way, do you say MAGA or MAGA? I've always said MAGA, but now I'm hearing it pronounced MAGA more.
Yeah, I also noticed that today, and I don't care. I'm gonna call it MAGA until the day I die. What the fuck do I care? It's the MAGA movement to me. America. I don't know.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for the $4.99. Imagine uniting with January 6th rioters. That'll look great for the public. MAGA communism. Yeah, I mean, imagine uniting with the people, the single group of people that probably hate communism more than anyone else in this country. Like the MAGA people, the Republican Party base, is the number one enemy of communism. You ask them, who's your number one enemy? They'll say the communists 100% of the time. And I actually have some proof of that. I found this on Twitter today. Someone actually went on Truth Social, which is the official MAGA social media. Don't get it twisted. Donald Trump's social media. And they're deciding to see how people react to MAGA communism. This guy says MAGA is communism. Check out infrared. This other commenter says there really isn't enough eye rolls for you idiots. And he goes on to try to explain how they have similar goals. Response: the stupidity is overwhelming. You don't understand communism at all if you say to be anti-democrat is communist. None of your post makes a damn bit of sense. So that's one reaction. Here's another. We need MAGA with communism characteristics. No, we don't. Why not? Pretty simple answer, because fuck communism and every other collectivist philosophy. Let's keep going. So you're for communism? Yes, ma'am. MAGA communism. Well, the old saying, the only good commie is a fucking dead commie, you fucking traitor. There you go. I'm going to ask you again, what communist country were you in? I want nothing to do with the commie. He is not American. So yeah, these people hate communism. Absolutely nothing with the ideology of communism belongs with the MAGA movement. Nope. No room. All we need is to go find these Antifa and BLM wimps. Again, Antifa and BLM are the real fascists. They are a mutual enemy. These people don't want to fucking in any way ally with communists or anyone on the left. This is ridiculous.
Yep, and I don't want to fucking ally with them, unfortunately. Why would I pick the person I have the least amount in common with? Like, these are the same people. It breaks my fucking mind open. Because these are the same people that will tell you that you're fucking crazy to talk to the DSA, that they're all sellouts, that they're all water carriers for the establishment. It's like, what if I present to you the litany of things that Donald Trump has done that are 1,000,000 to 1 exponentially worse than any of the things that the squad has done, right? And we're not even talking about his career criminal behavior outside of being in fucking office. They're going to be like, well, that's not real MAGA. And I'll be like, no, it is. MAGA is what Donald Trump says it is. It is a singular person-led party. That's why no other fucking candidate except his sycophants, the diehards, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, have been able to fucking permanently capture that. They will go as far as he will go. They will indulge every fucking delusion, distorted reality that he decides to fucking occupy for himself, and they'll go full board because it's Donald Trump's fucking vision. That's what MAGA is. And those people will be led to anything. And Donald Trump is anything if not the most ardent, fucking disgusting capitalist in America.
Yeah, literally the poster boy of American capitalism. Gold toilet Donald Trump. Yeah, let's unite with that guy's followers in order to achieve the exact opposite of what they believe in.
And not the DSA though. You're a fucking mark if you fucking work with the DSA. They're only like fucking feeding people and like fucking, trying to get people fucking representation in tenant courts.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, hit that like button, everyone, if you haven't already. It really helps us out. And we got a few more super chats. Thank you so much, Pedro the Lion, for the $5. I never thought Dore was funny, but this was hilarious. Yeah, I honestly was. It's tough to gauge exactly what was going through his mind during the course of that interview, because part of him, he genuinely did seem like put off by this idea of MAGA communism, and he seemed like he knew it was dumb, and then he knew it was like bullshit. But then he was also kind of defending Jackson against some of the criticisms that Pasta was making, and kind of even mocking Pasta when he was making those criticisms. So it's hard to tell. I think he's a little bit torn on this one.
Yeah. Watching his facial expression and the just sheer disappointment at how fucking dumb his guest was really hilarious. He was like used to having somebody that can at least confidently and competently articulate their bullshit. This time he had Jackson.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Pedro. Also, thank you, KD Nick, for the $5. Lennon was adamant about doing everything possible to recruit the opposition and was eloquent in his writings. If you've read Lennon, you would know that. I'm not at all opposed to recruiting the opposition. I think there's a lot of genuine common ground between working class people of all different political varieties. There's no doubt about it. But going to a fucking MAGA rally and saying, hey, you down with MAGA communism is probably the single dumbest way to go about recruiting the opposition. That's immediately going to turn them off. That's like going to a Trump rally and saying, hey, I'm a Hillary Clinton supporter. Hey, want to work together on our shared goals? Like, why even bring that up? Why just talk about like labor rights or fucking outsourcing or something? Just talk about the issues. If you want to work together with other working class people who otherwise disagree with you, just start on an issue by issue basis and break down where you agree and where you can work together. Bringing in fucking communism and MAGA is just only going to further divide the working class, as Pasta actually like accurately stated.
Oh, 100%. And look, Gavin and I also just eloquently laid out that we don't read theory, and we still ran circles around your boys on that last clip. But anyway, I would like to say that, yeah, 100% I'm for recruiting people that diametrically don't agree with me if they want to come around on my terms, right? That's fine. I'm not going to adopt their rhetoric. I'm not going to adopt their framing. That's bullshit. That's indulgence, and that's regression. And that was not what Lenin was in favor of. You know what Lenin was in favor of? Going to the fucking factory and being like, hey, do you hate your fucking boss? So do I. Let's fucking do something about it, okay? Not like, yeah, let's fucking sit around and talk about how the election was stolen from our former president and how we need to fucking steal it back from the rad libs that want pink hair on college campuses, and the most fucking crazy thing to talk about is critical race theory. Like, no, why would I start with those people who have been so poisoned already as to think that that's like the biggest issue in their lives? I want to go ahead and reach the people who may like Gavin and I live in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay, we are not in a fucking blue bubble. Okay, I talk to people all the time, people I like. Okay, that I will happily spend time with outside that disagree with me on politics, and I have to fucking push back on their framing all the time, and I'll have to be like, no. Real leftism is unions. How do you feel about unions, right? Because I'm not talking about the like liberal Joe Biden bullshit, right? Like, yeah, you can hate Kamala Harris. Don't talk about how that's the left, and we're constantly like reframing that, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, okay, well I do agree on unions, and I do think people should have health care. It's fucked up having to pay premiums and all that kind of shit. That's how you reach people. The way that they're going about it is just indulging them in all of their most fucking chaotic and ridiculous framework. It's stupid.
Absolutely. And thank you also, Bruce, for the follow-up super chat. Thanks for the $1.99. RBN seemed willing to host a debate with y'all versus Jackson. I mean, yeah, we've said multiple times we're not really interested in debating someone who's a literal propagandist who's operating in 0% good faith. He's literally just a fucking talking point machine propagandist. It'd be like debating a freaking teleprompter, like fucking the press secretary for the president. Like, what's the point? Their job is to do propaganda. There's no changing their mind. There's no finding common ground. It's just propaganda.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for the barrage of, then why did you talk about him on your show? Because it's fucking funny, because he's a laughing stock and he's so unserious at this point. And for some strange reason, so many people like pretend that he's like a bastion of leftism. It's fucking hysterical. So we make a mockery of him. I'm not interested in having any kind of good faith discussion with the guy. I'm sorry. I'm just not.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you though for the super chat. And Also, thank you 5% Juice for the $5. I 1000% agree that Henkel will just be a Trump supporter in 2 years. But I'm still saving that clip of you promising to eat your shoe if he isn't.
Play it, bro.
Yeah, save that clip. I'm looking forward to not having to eat my shoe because I will be vindicated. Henkel will 100% be an outright Trump supporter by the time the election gets into full gear.
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt. It's been like 1 year, okay? And he's just going to go wherever the clicks go, okay? It's 100% going to happen.
Absolutely. But thank you so much, 5% Juice. That's hilarious. And thank you once again for the $5. Dear God, someone sent Jimmy a copy of the Communist Manifesto. It's literally free. Yeah, it is. I have a copy on my bookshelf.
Yeah, 100%. It's so embarrassing, guys. It is fucking unreal that none of them all fucking like, especially Pasta and Jackson Hinkle, pretending that they're like holier than thou Marxists that understand it so much more than the fucking plebeians, right? Like, oh, I'm not a cappuccino Marxist. I've just never heard of the Communist Manifesto, you fucking idiot. Like, I don't know how you can live so far up your own fucking ass, but they are exactly what they claim to hate. They are exactly what they claim to hate. They are no different than the most delusional MSNBC watcher or the most delusional fucking Fox News watcher. They all suck from the tit of the guy that tells them.
They are delusional Fox News watchers, though. That's the thing. They are delusional Fox News watcher. These guys, all their talking points are straight from Tucker Carlson. It's just garbage.
Yeah, well, anyway, the point that I was making is the fact that these people claim to be so more fucking holier than thou when it comes to that. Like, oh, like, can you believe these like fucking sheeple MSNBC watchers? It's exactly what you are. You just look for the mascot you like that's telling you what the fuck you like to hear, and you do no research to fucking challenge it. Like, these people like have fucking hammer and sickles in their background. They've never fucking heard of the Communist Manifesto. They don't know that Karl Marx wrote it. The guy, well, we paused it and replayed it because it was so unbelievable that he like name drops Ingalls completely like out of context, and then still can't come up with the Communist Manifesto as the blueprint for how we get to communism. I mean, guys, this your team, fam? Come get your boys. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much for the super chat. Thank you also, Hope and Division, for the $2. Housing, healthcare, legal drugs, and prostitution. Sounds good to me, man.
Retweet.
Yeah, I signed off on that. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you also, Das Bosta Fleisch. F capitalism. Did I miss something? Jimmy no longer uses swear words. I guess he censored himself in that instance. I don't honestly watch enough Jimmy Dore to know how often he's dropping actual F bombs, but yeah, it's probably just depending on how passionate he is.
Yeah, not everybody swears like swashbuckling fucking sailors like me and Gavin. And we occasionally will get comments about it. It's like, you guys say fuck too much. I'm like, yeah, fucking watch a different show. Like, we're not doing anything about it.
Yeah, some people get really salty about that. They're like, you guys are such smart young men, and to see you use these naughty language just really, ruins your credibility. I'm like, sorry, bro. But yeah, thank you so much, Das Bosta Fleisch. Really appreciate that. And thank you, Matt Ocelot God, for the $2. Hot take, Thorsten Veblen over Karl Marx. Not super well versed in the work of Thorstein Veblen. I don't know how to pronounce that, unfortunately, but I'll look into it, Matt Ocelot God. You always have the best recommendations.
Yeah, Matt Ocelot, this actually just continues to get into that further fraying of the media, just getting in and really just diluting the message in the words of. I have no idea who this person is, but yeah, I'll check him out. I don't know. I've barely read any Karl Marx, which is why I was astonished that I was able to flex so hard all over all of those dumbasses, because normally I'm the guy that sits back and is lectured to about theory, not the kind of person that knows anything about it, which just shows how little they fucking actually know about communism.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Matt Ocelot the God, though. We really appreciate that. And I'll definitely check out Thorstein's work for sure. Thank you once again, Hope and Division, for the $2. I think Jimmy cares about healthcare and housing. Hopefully, right? I mean, that'd be cool.
I think he does. I think that actually the healthcare thing might be the one thing that Jimmy is willing to die on. If I was to give him like credit for one thing, I think that Medicare for all shit, I think he really does believe in that.
Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, the candidate he supported in 2020 was not running on Medicare for all, so I don't know. But
I mean, I think it's fair to say that they were running on a version of Medicare for all, just not the ideal version of Medicare for all. I mean, if you read Tulsi's website, she did have the universal healthcare thing on there. That is fair to say.
The single payer plus or whatever. Yeah, I remember when he had her on, though, he even asked her, like, so why not just support Medicare for all? And she was like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And then he kept supporting her anyway. So I don't know, bro. There was one candidate that actually supported Medicare for all, and you fucking smeared him and trashed him instead of supporting him. So just saying.
That's true. But I mean, yeah.
No, I know what you're saying though. I mean, he definitely seems he definitely pretends to care about it. Hopefully, he actually does. And if he fucking decides to run as a libertarian, like Pasta was suggesting, and be the one libertarian that wants to support Medicare for all, well, at least that would actually be in line with his anti-duopoly messaging, right? At least he'd actually be running in a third party outside of the duopoly and trying to change their position on an issue that I happen to agree with him on. So, if he actually does run at all, I think it would be a lot more in line with his previously stated principles and values to do it as like a libertarian or Green Party candidate. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and I'm not even I wouldn't even be pissed if he ran as a libertarian, if he ran on good values as a libertarian. I mean, we had Vermin Supreme on our show, and he considered himself to be like an anarcho-libertarian, and was actually for some based policies that we talked to him about. Obviously, I don't think he would have much success in the Libertarian Party. It's dominated by anarcho-capitalists who diametrically oppose everything that we stand for. But I mean, give it a shot.
Yeah, especially Medicare for all. The libertarians are like rabidly against big health, big government, and which Medicare for all is socialized healthcare. Anyway,
they literally, their last VP told me he didn't think there should be any regulation in the field of medicine. Zero. I was like, what? To become a doctor, you don't have any certification? He was like, why would they go to you if you weren't a good doctor? I'm like, this is the level of arguments that you are going to receive from hardcore anti-government capitalists.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the majority of the Libertarian Party, not even close. Thank you also, Guy Freak, for the $2. Make Asia great again. Is it not great? I thought Asia seems pretty great to me.
I've been to Asia. It was fire. MAGA. I'll make Asia great. Mag. Asia's already great.
Wouldn't it just be MAGA still?
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks so much for the $2. Let's keep going, see if there's any more super chats. Thank you so much, Carolina Boy. What's up, Carolina Boy? Good to hear from you. Thanks for the $1.99. MAGA communism. Next up, KKK Black Power. I mean, basically, it's just a blatant contradiction, an oxymoron, if you will. I mean, you're basically not that far off, Carolina Boy.
Wasn't it a Dave Chappelle stand-up bit where they did that whole thing where it was the blind guy who becomes the leader of the fucking Aryan movement or whatever, and he's black? Anyway, yeah, it like I said, beyond parody.
Absolutely, it's truly devolved into self-parody over on the Jimmy Dore show. But thank you so much, Carolina Boy. Really appreciate that, and I do think that's it for super chats right now. I know we wanted to briefly talk a little bit about this story about Donald Trump and the New York Attorney General. Here, I can share my screen real quick and we can get into this. Let's see. The Associated Press is reporting that New York Attorney General sues Donald Trump and company. New York Attorney General sued former President Donald Trump and his company on Wednesday. This was going down this morning. I was watching some of the press conference, alleging business fraud involving some of their most prized assets, including properties in Manhattan, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. AG Letitia James' lawsuit, filed in state court in New York, is the culmination of the Democrats' 3-year civil investigation of Trump and the Trump Organization. Trump's 3 eldest children, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka, and Eric Trump, were also named as defendants, along with 2 longtime company executives, Alan Weisselberg and Jeffrey McConney.
Alan Weisselberg's obviously in jail already, or already cooperating with Fed.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. The lawsuit seeks to strike at the core of what made Trump famous, taking a black light to the image of wealth and opulence he's embraced throughout his career. First as a real estate developer, then as a reality TV host, and later as president. James, a Democrat, announced details of the lawsuit at a news conference on Wednesday. The case showed up on a court docket Wednesday morning. Oh, shit, what'd I do? James said Trump falsely inflated his net worth by billions of dollars. The goal, the Attorney General's office has said, was to burnish Trump's billionaire image and the value of his properties. When doing so, gave him an advantage while playing down the value of assets at other times for tax purposes. This investigation revealed that Donald Trump engaged in years of illegal conduct to inflate his net worth to deceive banks and the people of the great state of New York. Claiming you have money you do not have does not amount to the art of the deal. It's the art of the steal. That's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, she was really proud of herself when she said that too. But yeah, so this is absolutely insane because if you read that, like this investigation revealed that Donald Trump engaged in years of illegal conduct to inflate his net worth. It's kind of like water is wet. How much homework did you fucking do, guys? We knew all of this before he ran for president. And I think that all of this is just so revealing. I think I saw Kyle Kulinski was like taking a victory lap about this, but I remember before I even had the Vanguard, right? Gavin just got up to leave, so he won't get to see me relive this memory. But we used to have this blog called Milk Mag, which was a terrible fucking name that I came up with. I'll take credit for how bad it was. We were blogging about all kinds of shit, wrote about how like fucking Claire McCaskill was going to lose her election, Josh Hawley was going to come win and be a fascist, all that kind of shit we were writing about at the time. But we were also writing about how we did not buy into Russiagate fucking for horse shit, because you could see like weird escalations that Donald Trump would do with Russia, with like our Navy and the port areas over there, the shit that would have pissed Putin off, all kinds of shit. That escalated, like our involvement in Syria wasn't, all this kind of shit. Anyway, it wasn't adding up. On top of that, the Russiagate shit was, not bearing any fruit. But I wrote this one piece for my fucking, gosh, what was the class? It was like a creative writing class, but we had to write something nonfiction. And I was like, okay, let's flex on these people, because it was like it was a lot of, I was at like a creative writing course. It was a lot of like neoliberal people. Anyway, we wrote a whole piece about how this was like the Russia was like a big red herring, and like if you actually wanted to go after Donald Trump while he was in office, what you needed to do was look at his businesses, and it was clear as day. And there were a lot of people talking about this. Glenn was always talking about this. Matt Taibbi was always talking about this, and Kyle was always going off on the emoluments clause and how he was constantly enriching himself, but also how he'd committed decades of fucking fraud, tax evasion, how he was in bed with the mob. So you just read this and it's just like, yeah, you guys all decided to finally show up to the party and charge him for the ridiculous, absurd crimes. Like I went back and listened to this because I didn't even know this was happening until Gavin came downstairs and told me about it. And I went back and listened to it. Like the litany of absurd crimes that this guy thought he could get away with, Gavin. Like he had rent controlled apartments that he was saying were worth like $40 million, even though they were max retailed over at like $750,000. And he would just put the fucking company's name on there and say, oh yeah, these people certified everything, like blatant, just fucking fraud. So pretty insane that it took this long to fucking bring the hammer down, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, no, it is insane. I wonder if they're actually gonna, like, if this will actually lead to anything. I'm still a little bit like, hesitant to say, oh, the walls are closing in, right? Tick, 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 tick. They're gonna get him now. Like, it does seem like an indictment is in the future as far as like from the FBI and all that stuff for the documents that he's stolen. So maybe this will in some way factor into that. But still, it's like, just, I don't know, bro. Hopefully this actually results in something, right?
Oh, I think I don't know. Maybe I'm biting off more than I can try. I feel like we're getting a little inverted here. Normally, I'm the one that's like, I don't know, fuck that dude, and you're like, no, this is serious. But I was listening to her. Letitia James. We have to remember, this is the lady that slayed the fucking the Chris Cuomo. She brought his ass down. She is gunning, and not that that's like, obviously that was good, really good for her career, and it took some clout. But if she gets Donald Trump, like, that's like a huge trophy for her, right? And I feel like if you're an AG, this is the kind of way you think. She wants that Trump trophy. She wants that to be part of her legacy, that, in the same way that like Rudy Giuliani made his name going after the fucking mobsters, she wants to make her name going after Donald Trump and slaying the fucking beast, right? And bringing him down. And so there's a couple of really interesting things that she kept noting. One, the fact that there were just so many fucking counts that they had broad, clear as day evidence for, right? Like they said that this dude's already racked up $250 million in like a fucking restitution or whatever it is that they're looking for from him. They're trying to banish him from like doing fucking business in New York City. There's like all kinds of shit. 5 years like you can't get any loans in New York City, all kinds of shit. But the thing that I do think is interesting is whether or not they'll pursue the criminal charges, because I think for sure financially he's going to hurt from this, right? And obviously this all goes back to Michael Cohen, who a lot of people have forgotten about, and not that he's a sympathetic character. He was a real piece of shit for most of his life, but he decided that he was like, to save my own ass, let me use all of the knowledge that I know of the dirt of Donald Trump and turn it against him. So he's also been like heavily involved as a source in all this, which is why I think it's going to be pretty hard for Donald Trump's attorneys to refute this. I think that Letitia James has him on lock because she's got two cooperating members from inside deep in the Trump organization, and that's how you bring the bitch down. They're like, I did all this fucked up shit. You're gonna let me walk for it because I told you, and now you bring down this guy. The real interesting thing, and what I think has to happen if you want this case to have any kind of serious merit, is you have to bring criminal charges and not just civil charges. Like like obviously they're going to ruin him financially, and he won't be a fucking real serious player in the business world. He hasn't been a real serious player in the business world in a while. He was a shell of a businessman while he was on The Apprentice, and just like a fucking, you know, bobblehead figure, essentially a fake tycoon. Now he will be way, way less than that, and that will destroy him. But I think that him and his children all need to be in orange jumpsuits. Otherwise, this is all for naught. Like think about it this way, Gavin. If we went outside and we stuck up a car that was worth 10 grand and we drove off into the sunset with it, we get picked up the next day. We're doing 5-7 years. This dude stole hundreds of millions of dollars.
What do you mean, Zach? It's all just a politically motivated witch hunt.
That's the shit that drives me insane. What the fuck are you talking about? All of you guys that are now like, oh, they're just trying to come after Trump for nothing. Like, you guys were all on the same page with us like 3 years ago about how he was a corrupt businessman, piece of shit. Like, we know how many crimes he's done. Guys, white collar crimes actually hurt people badly. They trickle down and they fuck the poor. You know why rent is so fucked in New York City? Because of bastards like Donald Trump, because of real estate tycoons in New York City, and the fact that they're now just fucking using those as like bare investment opportunities instead of actual shelter for people. This is the fucking problem. Yeah, you know, you can't be
Wrong.
You can't be pro housing, you can't be pro labor, and then be anti Donald Trump being brought down for this. You should want to see every single one of these disgusting fuckers with white suits or white collars or whatever the fuck it is brought to justice for their financial crimes.
Wrong.
No, you're 100% right, dude. You're 100% right. Anyway, I did want to quickly also, before we get out of here, guys, I did want to quickly cover the story that one of our viewers brought to our attention at the beginning of the stream today, which is Dan from the internet, formerly of TYT, going on an absolute tear against Mr. Kyle Kulinski. Poor Kyle over here getting just absolutely roasted by this guy Dan from the internet. So he goes on this massive tear, this massive threat. Kyle Kulinski has lost his integrity. We were friends before he threw away 10 plus years of audience trust just to climb up Joe Rogan's ass. How can he boast being a progressive political actor, co-founder of Justice Dems, while betraying workers and the marginalized? And there's a photo of them together, apparently back when they were homies. And it goes on to list some times in the past where Kyle Kulinski has defended Joe Rogan and said things like, you know, why focus on all the right-wing stuff he said when he's also said a bunch of, you know, left-wing stuff and et cetera, you know, going through examples, saying that, you know, Kulinski hasn't changed his mind before, even though he brags about Joe's ability to be reasoned with, et cetera. But, you know, I think this is kind of dumb, to be honest, because Kyle just called out Joe Rogan like a couple weeks ago. We literally did a video about it at the time. We reacted to it on stream where Kyle put out a whole video, probably like 20 minutes long, absolutely destroying Joe Rogan's case for Ron DeSantis, right? Remember, Joe Rogan said, "Oh, I think I'm going to vote for Ron DeSantis," right? And Kyle put out like this massive video being like, "Bro, this is wrong, and it completely violates all of your principles about freedom. And, you know, you claim to care about legal weed. Well, Ron DeSantis is against that. You claim to care about the First Amendment. Well, Ron DeSantis is against that." Like, he broke down in detail how dumb of a take Joe Rogan had. And he's done this multiple times now. The last like 5 times Rogan has said something completely objectionable and completely crazy, Kyle has reacted and disagreed heavily and called out Joe Rogan. I think if Joe Rogan had him back on, Kyle would happily get into those areas of disagreement and do his best to change Joe Rogan's mind. So if Kyle was truly coddling Joe Rogan and defending everything he said and acting like, you know, Joe Rogan is a based leftist or whatever, then I might agree with Dan from the internet. But in reality, that's not what's happened at all. Kyle has pushed back pretty vociferously, especially in the last few months, on Joe Rogan's right-wing shift.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions here. Look, we never handle Kyle with kids' gloves. Kyle sometimes listens to our show. I like him a lot, but we always have pretty been consistent. I like Kyle's show a lot and I like his commentary. I've been a fan for years. So, but you know, I'm not going to like shy away from disagreeing with the guy. Fuck if I would ever do that. But when I look at this clip, let's scroll down a little bit into the picture. One, I know that Kyle didn't get that shirt until he started hanging out with Crystal Ball. So let me just say this. I remember when they put out the photographs from all of those fucking, Crystal Kyle and Friends promotion. This looks like that era of Kyle. This isn't like when he first got invited on Joe Rogan that you decided to like burn the bridge with him. I would wager that this picture is a bit more recent than 2016. So it's just like, why now out of all the time, kind of like you were mentioning, when he's actually kind of like moved away from his commentary on Joe Rogan. And I would also say maybe, I'm also just a closeted bigot like Kyle Kulinski, but back in 2016, I felt like I was listening to a different Joe Rogan. That's actually how I got into Kyle Kulinski. And like the first time that he went on Joe Rogan was when I first started like really, really listening to him. Like Gavin had played Secular Talk before. I was like familiar with him, but I listened to him like for 3 hours on Joe the first time he went on there. And he was like fucking fanboying to all crap. He was like, dog, everybody knows who you are. This is crazy. Like, I remember thinking like he was like super endearing and like, all this shit. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to check out this guy's. So anyway, that's how I got exposed to Kyle. So win for the left there. Cause now look at now I'm really involved in YouTube. Not that that's much fun, I'm kidding. But anyway, but Rogan shifted his entire show from actually just having on heterodox voices. Like I didn't care if he had on fucking Republicans back in the day and he like pushed back on. Now it just seems like a different show. It's much more boomer. It's much more insulated. So it makes sense that Kyle felt like he was fighting on a more like equal ground than in the past, right? And even a guy who loved, like, let's take Michael Brooks, for example, right? Michael Brooks loved to lampoon Rogan, like, way before even I did. I would be like, oh, come on, bro. Like, but a lot of times it was really funny, right? Like, and he was like, oh, I would go on there in a heartbeat. You reach a fucking massive audience. He was like, nobody can deny that that's like the biggest and most effective podcast in the world. So I think it would have been silly for Kyle to not take those opportunities. I remember a few handfuls of incidents where he was really able to refute Joe's framing live on air. Like he made great parallels between like Medicare for all and the fire department when Joe was talking about and regurgitating a lot of JP talking points about how like, oh, there's a lot of like lines for shit in Canada. And Kyle's like, ask a single fucking working class Canadian if they would switch their healthcare for the United States and you will get like 99.9% no, because nobody wants to fucking have to pay the astronomical fees that come along with being held hostage by your care providers in the United States. So all these kinds of things, it's like weird to just like try and be like, fuck you for doing this, like completely out of nowhere, out of left field. And then using all of the most like worst moments of Joe Rogan to be like, you didn't scold him hard enough. Like, I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. And let's go down here. Cause he's trying to dunk on, Kyle for defending Joe Rogan's for making racist jokes in the past and basically saying like, well, come on, guys, Joe Rogan clearly has evolved. He doesn't use that language anymore. I personally don't think he's a racist. That's what Kyle said. And guess who else he defended from their past jokes and past bigoted statements? Cenk Uygur. Remember that whole scandal when people dug up Cenk Uyghur's old blog posts and he said like really sexist jokes and like made jokes about how, the inherent biological flaw in women is that they didn't want to have sex with him, stuff like that. Kyle Kulinski also defended Cenk Uyghur from his problematic past of making problematic jokes, because guess what? Kyle also has a past of making problematic jokes. You can look at his Twitter and find him saying, jokes that could be construed as racist or sexist or whatever. It was a little bit of a different time on the internet back then. But the point I'm making is that guess who used to work for Cenk Uyghur? This fucking guy. This guy used to apparently work for Cenk Uyghur. Apparently he used to work at TYT. So like, this is so selective. This is selective fucking pearl clutching here. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, 100%. And look, I remember when this all went down because we commented on it intensely. And I remember saying, bro, this is one of the things that's always been in the back of my mind about Rogan. When is the boot going to drop for this guy? He said the N-word so many fucking times. And his guests have said the N-word so many fucking times. And of course, they're all white guys that say it. So I was like, when is the fucking hammer going to fall for this? I don't know. I don't think that means that, he deserves whatever flack he gets. I don't give a fuck if you're mean to Joe Rogan. Everybody can be mean to Joe Rogan. He has $100 million fucking dollars to wipe his tears with. People are fucking mean to me and I'm broke. So I don't give a shit. But I just mean like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the chickens can come home to roost for Rogan, just like the chickens came home to roost for Kyle, and Kyle ate a lot of fucking shit. Some of it fucking justifiably. Obviously, it's you can't say that to kind of shit. But that being said, why would we come out of the blue and be like, fuck Kyle for this thing that some other guy did? Like, that sounds like a little bit chaotic.
Yeah, and again, I just can't get over the hypocrisy. This guy who literally used to work for Cenk Uygur, who was canceled and forced out of Justice Democrats for his old problematic jokes, is now trying to come after Kyle for not being hard enough on someone else's old problematic jokes. Okay, it's just a very obvious attempt to get attention from this guy. It's from what I can tell, at least. That's my read of the situation. Let's do this big dramatic threat exposing Kyle Kulinski for something he didn't even do. And like I said, Kyle has consistently called out Joe Rogan in the last few months because Joe Rogan has undeniably been going further and further to the right. Now he's talking about how he supports Ron DeSantis, and Kyle Kulinski has pushed back on that over and over again. Like, what else do you want him to do? Take off his fucking shirt and beat his chest and, threaten to come and fight Joe Rogan like Cenk Uygur does? Let's fight. Let's fucking fight, bro. Like, what do you want him to do? So I think that's really stupid. Really, really stupid, honestly, from what I can tell.
Honestly, dude, now that you mention it, I do want to see them get greased up and go to fucking blows with one another. No, I'm kidding. Fuck, man. Yeah, this seems like it seems like a little bit like clout chasing. Unfortunately, that happens to people sometimes. I don't know. This seems like a fucking massive reach to try and, like you said, kind of expose Kyle when there's nothing to expose here. Massively late to the party. This tweet maybe would have gone bonkers if you would have caught it like right on the wave of like the liberal mass hysteria coming out against Joe Rogan. But even then, I feel like Kyle's audience, our audience, the people that are gonna like, that you're trying to like take away from Kyle and like fucking, I don't know, like say that he's lost his integrity. Like, no, I think he demonstrated his integrity, his sheer integrity, because he went and said, "Hey, man, I probably won't." Like, in the back of your brain, whenever you challenge somebody that's like a fucking titan in this space, right? And there are no real bigger titans in the podcasting space than Joe Rogan, right? So for Kyle to have ascended to that and then be able to say, all right, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to rip your ass, dog, a little bit, right? Like, and do that and say, I'm going to fucking throw away while my channel is at a standstill, like hurting a little bit, algorithm, progressive energy dying out, all kinds of shit, and still be like, I can't do this, bro. This is fucking whack. You're telling me you're going to vote for a Republican after all the conversations that we've shared, after everything you've supposedly espoused on this. Now you're going to tell your entire massive audience that like Ron DeSantis is a fucking guy to come out there and to fucking, be able to lay down the law and say, this is bullshit, bro. I'm calling you out. That takes a lot of integrity. And so like I would be able to really kind of quickly refute your logic right there, bro. So I'm not familiar with Dan from the internet, Dan from the web. Maybe he's a great guy and he just fucked up really quick. I don't want to come down too hard on him because I have absolutely no idea who the fuck he is. But yeah, this seems like a swing and a miss to me.
Yeah. Plus, like, you have to remember, Kyle Kulinski literally got Bernie Sanders on the Joe Rogan Experience, led to a conversation on one of the biggest platforms on the internet, if not the biggest platform, with Bernie Sanders, led to Joe Rogan endorsing Bernie Sanders, which Bernie was then able to use to his advantage. Like, whatever you think of Joe Rogan, I've also been super disappointed by his recent transition to just becoming a full-fledged right-winger, seemingly. But you can't deny that, like, that was dope. And that was really helpful to Bernie and to the movement or whatever. So you have to see where Kyle's coming from here. Like, oh, this guy literally not that long ago, was seemingly on the right page. Seemingly we can change his mind in our direction. Why don't we try to do that? Like, I can understand his logic. Because I don't, for all my criticisms of Joe Rogan, I don't think he's just like a total and complete and utter grifter. I actually think that what he says is what he means. Because he's not really getting paid on like a video by video basis. He's not just chasing the ad revenue from like, cashing in on the latest wave of ideological, thought or whatever. Kind of like a guy like Jackson Hinkle, who we were just talking about. He just gets paid. He's already been paid by Spotify up front. So he just says what he believes, right? Like, I disagree with him, but I still think he's genuine in his resolve.
Yeah, it's tough because I think you're right that he believes it. I just think that his mind is so fucking easy to change, and that he mostly surrounds himself by people who have a fucking thumb on his like a right-wing thumb on the guy. Like, I think that there's a world where like the reason that Joe became so popular was because he was kind of like the friend that a lot of guys, like, they had such a parasocial relationship with him. You had a generation of men with like really no friends, and then the guy that everybody wants to be friends with. I mean, his friends are always on there fucking gassing him up. Nobody's bought me more steaks than Joe Rogan. Like, Joe always took me on the fucking road even when he wasn't big. Like, Joe is the man. Joe is our fucking guy. He's hilarious. He knows UFC, knows jiu-jitsu. He's a man's man. He hunts. This is the guy that all these men envisioned themselves as like being like boys with, right? Like, this you're a homie that that you never had, right? Like, oh, Joe would love me if he hung out with me. I would be one of his best bros. Like, that's like the fantasy that all these like fuckers are living in. That's what makes him like the best podcaster in the world. But I also think it makes him real malleable to just be like, oh yeah, bro. Yeah. Oh no, my buddy told me this. This is what I think right now. Like, I don't know. And I think that's genuine, right? Like, that's just not how I am, because I firmly, like, Gavin is like my best friend, and if Gavin tells me something and I disagree with it, I'll be like, go fuck yourself, dude. I don't fucking agree with that, right? Like, you know what I mean? But not everybody works like that. They'll be like, oh yeah, my friend told me this. I like that guy. He's a cool guy. You know?
Right. Also, like Kyle's content really usually doesn't include a lot of like calling out of other commentators. You know, like he'll respond to like cable news commentators and stuff like that, but you don't really see Kyle dropping videos very often where he's like calling out his fellow commentators or other people in the political commentary arena. It's just not something he really engages in a lot. So it'd be kind of weird if he just started dropping videos every other day, being like, Joe Rogan is a piece of shit or whatever. I don't know. Just seems like there's not really much there here. And here this guy is trying to provoke Kyle and Crystal into a debate. They're 100% too afraid to speak to me on this. Meanwhile, this has like 6 likes. Like, bro, who the fuck are you? Like,
I didn't even realize. What an embarrassment, bro. Okay, why are we even talking about this, Kyle? Hopefully you see this and get a good laugh. That shows how serious this dude is with his fucking criticisms, and how that was just a blatant fucking face plant right there. I'm surprised you didn't delete it. How embarrassing that fucking is. Jesus Christ, 6 favorites. Like, you went for the fences. You added both of them, and you didn't get any traction from their haters.
yeah, exactly. And not to say that, you know, we're huge on Twitter. Obviously we're not. Like, sometimes we'll put out a tweet and it gets 6 fucking likes too, but we're also not out here saying like, this person is too afraid to debate me. Like, this person with 20,000 times more of a following than us is afraid to debate us. Like, we're never going to fucking say that. We're not narcissists.
Rogan won't have us on because he's scared, bro. Tucker won't have us on because he's scared, bro. Yeah, bro, he don't want this, bro. No, come on.
Exactly. So yeah, that was pretty funny to react to.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much for the super chat and the inspiration for that. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think it was Brian that gave us that super chat. So shout out to you, Brian. And thank you, Jolly Man Big Boy, for the $2. Someone might Crowder seater you guys with Jinkle. that would be pretty funny.
LOL, if they did do that, we're ready. He's not very quick on his feet, and we're good at jokes, so we already win that fucking 5-minute exchange. That's why Sam won it, because Crowder's not that funny.
That was such a clusterfuck. We would not act like Steven Crowder in that situation, though. We would not just flee in terror. Anyway, thank you so much for the $2. Thank you also, Mike H, for the $2. Chiefs looking good post Tyreek Hill. Seems like they're still what 2-0, 3-0, 2-0. Yeah, doing pretty good.
Yeah, dude, I was so pissed. I was at the Bourbon Festival, and apparently Amazon Prime had the rights to the fucking game, so none of the ESPN sponsored like Budweiser and shit could play it on their TVs. And I'm at a music festival, like, you know, fucking Alanis Morissette's playing in the background. I'm like looking at the like fucking dotted sign. I'm a fucking degenerate piece of shit. Alanis Morissette slayed though. She still got it. Like, fucking great voice. Anyway, back to the Chiefs. Without Tyreek Hill, it's a huge bummer, but we still got a fucking cannon on Patrick Mahomes. He'll put the fucking ball right in your hand. You got Travis Kelce, who's a reliable target at all times. And then our wideouts, man. Look, Tyreek Hill, he was a he was a community college fucking guy who was going to have no chance in the NFL because he, beat the crap out of his girlfriend, right? We got to acknowledge that. He did do that. That was sus. He went through rehabilitation and therapy, though. And then he was a punt returner because all he was fast. Andy Reid taught him, and Eric Bieniemy taught him how to run routes, right? So we could do that again. All you got to do is find a fast kid and teach him how to fucking run routes with fucking Patrick Mahomes' arm. I'm sorry, but Tyreek, you're not going to be missed. We got you for your golden years. I'm glad you're going to get paid, but I'm not going to miss you. We're 2 for 2. The only thing I would like to see us do a little bit more is we had a tough time keeping holding LA out of the fucking end zone. We let them score too fucking much. So that's one thing we got to work on.
Yeah, didn't we like damn near lose that game and then barely pulled it out?
Yeah, it was kind of a miracle. We had a pick 6 interception that really saved us in that fucking game. But they show up to play, bro. They show up to fucking play.
Thanks so much, Mike. Really appreciate that super chat. And also shout out to you, comrade, for the $5. Just wanted to say, fire show today. 100%. You know it. That's why you come to the Vanguard. Am I right?
LOL, that was funny. Yes, that's why you come to the
But yeah, thank you so much, comrade. Really appreciate those $5. Once again, thank you, Mike. Kyle is best at breaking down left-wing politics in basic terms. One of the few that isn't professorial and doesn't use first semester poli-sci lingo. That's a good point. He is really good at that, which is one of the reasons why he was one of the first kind of lefty commentators that got me into the scene back in like 2015, 2016, like you were talking about, Zach. He definitely is good at communicating these sort of ideas to people that might not otherwise be plugged into the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out to you, Mike H. Always good to see you in the chat. And yeah, I mean, Kyle, I mean, I always have said, I said to Kyle's face, I was like, bro, I don't think I'm doing this for a living if I never got into watching secular talk, right? Like, I didn't really even think about this being like a career that people did until I saw that. And I was like, oh, I want to do that shit.
Well, I think that just about wraps up our show for the day, unless you have anything else you want to talk about, Zach.
No, I think I'm fucking good. Hopefully some more crazy shit goes down. So we have a fire show for you guys tomorrow. It was based. I was supposed to have to rush to fucking bartend after this, but the plumbing got fucking shit out of control at my bar. So Gavin and I were like, well, fuck yeah, bonus Vanguard. Let's go. So yeah, shout out to plumbers. That's some real shit. My girlfriend was like, oh, are they going to have you guys fix the plumbing? And I was like, we don't know fucking shit about plumbing, dude. Like, you got to pay a professional to do that shit. Like, I don't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah, well, thank you so much to the patron community. You guys know we like to start and end all of our lives with a big old shout out to the patrons. So thank you so much. The link's in the description. If you're interested in joining, hit it up, hit it up, hit it up. It's a great way to support the show. If you enjoy our content, if you agree with our perspective and want to see more, want to keep us afloat, please do consider helping us out. Supporting the show really, really does make a difference. We would not be able to do the show without you guys, as we are 100% viewer funded and independent. So thank you all for tuning in today. If you're not able to support the show on Patreon, obviously totally understand. All we ask is that you hit that like button on the way out. It's 100% free and another great way to support the show. But yeah, shout out to the patron community. You guys make it possible. That's what's up. So thank you so much. And yeah, great stream today. Really banging stream.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, you know, keeping our wheels on the van going round and round and round. Yeah, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out, hit the notification bell. You know, Vanguard's usually live at like 1 to 1:30 CST, but we live our lives ungovernable, so we never ever announce it before we're ready to fucking go for the day. So you guys need to hit that subscribe and notification bell. Make sure you don't miss our shows. We love having an active chat. So we really appreciate all you guys in your discussions in here. Gavin and I always keep an eye on what's going on. So we appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. And also everyone enjoy the autumnal equinox. It's a cause for celebration, if you ask me. As we were talking about at the beginning of the show, big fans of fall over here at the Vanguard. It's the best season. Speaking of Kyle Kulinski, if you ever want to debate us on something, Kyle, hit us up. We can definitely take you to task on your opinion about the autumnal season. Anyway.
Yeah, that's like Gavin and I's uniting force is the fact that we both like come out of our shells in the fall. Like we're like constantly bitching and pissed off and extra rage filled during the summer. And then you meet us and we're like two different guys. It's like, no, I've cracked a beer. I've sat outside on the patio. I've gone for a walk. I'm all right.
Exactly. I fucking love the fall. I love spooky season, horror movies, Halloween, all that good stuff, sweater weather. Anyway, we're going to get out of here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate you keeping us company. Peace out. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, doses and mimosas.